This is Vyzygoth Raw, and Larry's back with us as we are now doing our 117,000 part of this show. This is going to rival Colvin, which is really, an achievement. I take my hat off to you. But it's funny because you talk about it in the past, and it bleeds somewhat into the present. And it's just as valid now as it was, like 60 years ago. We're seeing the whole picture again, So, and we're going to touch upon that because I think you're going to hit a little bit of past, present, and future.
Right.
And so we welcome you back and hit it.
All right. I was going to start off with talking about the Holy Roman Empire and its significance throughout history briefly, and to give kind of a little synopsis of it, I read a thing from Alex Constantine, who wrote a work called The Spider Web. Anyway, he writes, Baron von Sebottendorf and his Thule Society and Lance von Liebenfels and the Order of the New Templars referred to the First World War as a holy war, revealing the quasi-religious and philosophical motives of their hidden masters. It has been documented that Nazi party leaders Adolf Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, Rudolf Hess, and Hermann Göring were all members of these occult secret societies. The protocols of the learned elders of Zion are proof that a conspiracy of epic proportions was at play behind the broader political scene. The end of the First World War resulted in Kaiser Wilhelm I being banished to Belgium and the removal of the Habsburgs from the throne of the Second Empire. The global hegemony of great king and pope was delayed. The Habsburgs' reluctant abdication was upon the insistence of the Allied nations in their Treaty of Saint-Germain. Incidentally, the Order of Saint-Germain is the French Royal Stuart equivalent of the Habsburgs' Order of Sion, each laying claim to genetic superiority and a kingship of Jerusalem. Such is the secret subtext of European war and politics. The magically relevant regions of Alsace and Lorraine were promptly returned to the Republic of France through the Treaty of Versailles, which not so much infuriated a young Hitler as his aristocratic hidden masters behind the curtain. While their agenda had brutally backfired, the Great White Brotherhood were by no means beaten, and a simple reversal of the truth, a common propaganda technique, would lead them even closer to their goal and introduce the world to perhaps their greatest spin doctor, talking about Hitler. In his popular book, Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler conveniently used the protocols of the Elders of Zion to deceptively, quote, prove that a global conspiracy was afoot, but led by the League of Jewish Rabbis. This stirred massive anti-Semitism that ultimately justified the Holocaust to the German people. Following the widespread distribution of the protocols by the Thule Society and Hitler's protege Alfred Rosenberg, it was the added Jewish elements that were seized upon by Hitler's Mein Kampf and Henry Ford's The International Jew. Conveniently, both of these fervently anti-Semitic works chose to ignore the Rosicrucian references of the protocols and the fact that the return of the king agenda is not traditionally Jewish or a historical goal of Jewish Zionism, but the secret goal of the Catholic Rosicrucian Grail elites. Perhaps the popularization of the altered protocols was an attempt at damage control and a pointing of the finger away from the true authors as their actual neo-feudalistic agenda was becoming known by political and occult scholars, or something even more nefarious. It is hardly credible that the baddies would reveal their fell purposes so blatantly, commented Foucault's Pendulum author Umberto Eco on the current recycling of the protocols within popular culture and the disturbing rise of, quote, crude forms of racism of the neo-Celtic kind. And yet the use of the protocols was the primary justification for the Holocaust and the attempted annihilation of the Jews, who are regarded as a historical, quote, perfidious enemy of both Jesuit and Rosicrucian elites.
What a surprise.
Yeah. Hitler's Third Empire would go one step further than theosophy, taking Rosicrucian and occult theories directly to the working class people of Germany and openly running the country according to their principles. Their use of Rosicrucian symbolism, the swastika, the Nuremberg rallies and rituals, and inner occult orders within Hitler's SS, who, like the Knights of Malta and Dragon Court, insisted upon a long heritage of pure Aryan blood before initiation. clearly illustrates how linked National Socialism was with the secret agenda and beliefs of the power elite. It is clear that the Nazi movement was a new approach to feudalism by the same aristocratic ruling powers. Realizing that some sense of revolution must be fulfilled in the ordinary working classes, Nazism gave the impression of revolution, but in fact, the restoration of the feudal overlords of the Holy Roman Empire and the beginning of National Socialist deception. In 1939, Hermann Rauschning wrote this about Hitler in a book called Hitler Speaks. He quoted him, "What will the social order of the future be like? Comrade, I will tell you. There will be a class of overlords, after them the rank and file of the party members in hierarchical order, and then the great mass of anonymous followers, servants, and workers in perpetuity, and beneath them again all the conquered foreign races and modern slaves. And over and above all these will reign a new and exalted nobility of whom I cannot speak. But of all these plans, the militant members will know nothing. The new man is living amongst us now. He is here. Isn't that enough for you? I will tell you a secret. I've seen the new man. He is intrepid and cruel. I was afraid of him." Well, anybody that would make Hitler afraid sounds like
got my vote.
Bad guy. I heard that. And it goes on, again, these same secret societies are revealing the inner secrets of their inverted belief system in the hope of converting new followers in key positions of influence. Their philosophers continue to seduce the highest level of the military, politics, and business and reach out to the public through books, lectures, and the Internet. While the economic and political power of 21st century synarchy spin doctors, such as Sir Lawrence Gardner and Prince Nicholas de Vere, is narrow, their esteemed position and knowledge within occult circles will almost certainly reach many with genuine clout, namely high-level Freemasons and Rosicrucians within the corporate military-industrial complex. While most of the world naively believes democracy has truly replaced feudalism, the concentration of wealth in the hands of the few, with the majority ownership of stocks, bonds, and real estate, and even the 2000 presidential election, proves the contrary. The richest 254 people in the world own more wealth than 47% of the global population. Right-wing conspiracy theorists mistakenly believe the goal of secret societies is a one-world utopia or global socialist state, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Synarchy's global village will be ruled by the, quote, dark lords from their castles of darkness, reigning supreme, uncontested, and as the past has shown, plotting to starve the poor to feed the rich, while a divided middle class competes for the scraps. A historical, socio-political model that is the norm in most developing countries. Undemocratic and inaccessible political and economic organizations, whether ultra-conservative think tanks or globalization commissions, ultimately harness the methods of fascism and are the enemies of a truly democratic and open world unity or global village. And finally, he said, the spider's web of cause and effect of safeguarding interest, wealth, resources, and position, and the seeking of supreme and ultimate power, economic, political, and magical, ultimately possesses all progressive moves toward global democracy, all progressive moves toward global democracy and freedom, human rights, and social justice, which are perceived as a direct threat to the New World Order historical agenda of the Great White Brotherhood and the reactionary secret church, with all its various denominations, royal courts, orders, and covens, who find unity of purpose and intent through their Aryan white supremacist belief system. As history has proven, the unacceptable face of Western capitalism hides behind a dragon's mask, and the occult conspiracy continues. Well, I said all that. It kind of set up the idea that really what we saw with the Third Reich was the third attempt to revive the Holy Roman Empire, which we are seeing today, I believe, in the European Union, and it's a great deal of evidence to show that.
But the whole of Europe, I think, is interesting, and I'll ask you a question that I kind of believe.
Okay.
were we in the United States not made to think through our history text and the times that we've been around? I mean, go back as far as you can remember, and to think that like Europe was like, oh man, like they were once everything, and now they ain't anything about that. That they somehow, they're all foolish and feckless, and they don't really get anything done. They take 3-hour lunches, they drink a lot of wine, and they ain't worth shit. I mean, sorry. And that, first of all, let me ask you this: growing up, okay, just think back to then, and until like when the light bulb finally went on. What was your take of Europe? I mean, did you think the U.S. was all that, and they weren't?
Well, my take of Europe, the only country in Europe that I liked was England. Because of, most of my heritage is English, and I liked English literature and, Robin Hood and all that stuff.
Stop there.
And I liked the Beatles. But the rest of Europe, I really didn't know anything about England either. I didn't realize, what all was going on there. I don't have that same view of them now. I especially don't like the English aristocracy. But I'm kind of like you. I kind of thought of Europe as kind of a second-rate, used to be, wannabe power. But I definitely hated Germany simply because of the way I was raised by people who my family, had fought them in the Second World War, and I despised them. I despised Nazism. Not that I, hate or dislike, individual Germans, but the whole, that whole culture. That revolved around Nazism. I hated that. But, and I thought the French were kind of, useless and kind of snobby.
Yeah.
I know that's not very astute or whatever, but that's kind of the impression I got.
But that's what I had too. And I whether the question was leading or not, I think we can agree, having grown up when we did. And I think even to this day, to a certain extent, we still look at Europe and we want to pet them like they're like a little cat or dog.
Yeah.
In essence, they've never lost the power. I mean, think about all that was wrought by that continent. I mean, whether it was Rome or whether it was Britain or whether it were the Vandals or the Visigoths or the whatever German tribes. I mean, think about all that took place. I mean, they were what was happening.
Well, I read a thing once where a guy was talking about how the American Indians, or Native Americans, if you wish to call them that, were often vilified by the Europeans, and there were things that the Europeans taught them, such as scalping. That was a European invention where they would scalp Indians so that they could prove, that they had killed one.
That was your payment. Yeah, that was your ticket.
Yeah. And it was like the Indians prior to that had never done that, and at first apparently they considered that strange at the very least, and he points out, he said, just about everything that you can think of that is cruel or vile, that has happened in world history, was brought to the world through Europe. And I started thinking about it, and there was a certain amount of truth to that. Not that just Europe had done vile and cruel things, but there's a certain amount of truth, especially in the way the Europeans treated the Native Americans and the way they treated each other over here.
When I had it on a couple of years ago, Dr. Daniel Paul, who was a Mi'kmaq, full-blooded Mi'kmaq, and we talked about some of the things that took place, and this is in Canada. I finally asked him. I said, what is it about the English? And he was like, they're kind of strange. And I mean, honestly, if you go back in time, as much as there's a lot of, ill feelings towards Americans or Yankees, whatever you want to call them, because of what they did. The Brits, I mean, nobody had it on the Brits, man. They're nasty son of a guns, and I'm not giving the Germans a pass either, but I tell you, between the two of them, it's kind of hard to pick.
Yeah.
But I would say that
I have friends that, from different parts of the world, because where I work, I meet a lot of people from all over the place. And I have some friends who are Indian, Oriental Indian, and they really strongly dislike the British because of, the British colonization of their country for so long. Although I think they have a certain amount of admiration, for certain aspects of British culture, they really resent the British and talk about how snobby they are. and that's all over the world, and not just India. I'm sure, Middle East and Africa and other places, people resent them because of their colonization. I mean, anytime you have an empire that comes into a country and takes over and exploits and abuses people, there's going to be a great deal of resentment toward them.
Yeah, I mean, the Brits did export empire much more effectively than either Germany or France or Spain. When it really came down to it, they ran the table. And I'm wondering if they weren't also somewhat behind in the sense of not wanting to overrun the United States. I think they could have taken us after the Revolution and certain other periods. They didn't do it, but they made sure that we grabbed as much as we could, if you know what I mean. In other words, we could purchase the Louisiana Purchase, we can the Gadsden Purchase, deal with the Spanish over Florida, and they really didn't get in the way of that. So that's why I feel that they could have knocked us off if they wanted to, but they didn't, and I think that they wanted us as a vassal state, and I think they got us as a vassal state. I just want to throw something out real quick to you, and this is, and we'll get back because we're kind of headed like a little bit toward, Germany post, present, and future. What I have to laugh at, and I just ask people. I mean, we didn't win we won the revolution, but King George drafted the terms, and he didn't say anything except you guys can turn the colonies. You can call colonies states now. It's okay, fine, but that's it. And what I have to laugh at is that I don't see where we purchased anything from England, if you catch my basic drift.
Yeah. The thing that got me about that period of time was the War of 1812. I still don't know what that was about.
I know.
I guess it was the Canadians came down and burned the White House.
Yeah, and they mooned us, too, I heard. They mooned us, and then they ran away.
That's not like the Canadians.
You want me to start reading from...
They must have been influenced by the British. Go moon those people.
Well, I can read from P.J. O'Rourke's Foreigners Around the World again if you want me to.
You can if you like. It's okay.
I think I left the English out of that one.
Yeah.
All right.
There was one. I remember that series, and I really got a big laugh about the English. There was one comment that these are people who could conquer half the world, but couldn't figure out central heating.
You remember that?
Yeah. And there was also a thing about they start talking about their physical characteristics. They have bad teeth and on and on and on. That whole thing with the British and their teeth. I don't know. They kind of resent that a little bit. They kind of go on about that. What was in that series? Mike Myers, Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
In that same issue, by the way, they did a really nice spread using claymation puppets, and they did it on Euro cuisine, like who the prototypes for Euro cuisine, Euro hostage, and Euro terror, something like that. And it was the prototype for Euro cuisine were the English, and somebody was hurling what do they call that? Blood pie or something? I don't know.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. Kidney pie. I don't know.
And somebody's hurling it, and of course, it's this horrible projectile. And the Euro hostage was the Dutch, and it was this Dutch guy with blonde hair and glasses with a big smile. And these hostages are there with hoods over them and AKs, and they've got taped to the guy these sticks of dynamite to his head.
Oh.
And it says, the Dutch, Euro hostage, keep them in your flat for a week. You wouldn't even know they're there. And then I think the Euro terrorists were the Germans for some strange reason. But that issue in May, I think, of 76 was absolutely, that I would find that in the FBI, that's amazing. That was in my drawer when I got my new desk, and I'm like, oh, this is too much. So on breaks, I go, okay, guys, you ready? We'd all huddle back there.
Yeah,
and
I used to read the National Lampoon all the time
Lord.
during that period of time, and I had a group of buddies, and we all got together with that particular magazine. We were, we were all started talking about it at the same time, and I realized everybody liked it, and we were all talking about our favorite, characterization of foreigners, and oh man.
Yeah, and I tell you, if you do a search on that, I mean, it is widely vilified. Like, this was never any fun. It's like, would you take a hike, man?
It's hilarious. I mean, the whole idea was, I mean, don't they get it? It's a lampoon.
Right. No, they don't. I mean, it's okay. Don't say anything bad about anybody unless...
There's no sense of humor about anything. It was like, come on, you know? Just don't attack the Italians, because a guy will show up at your door, a couple of guys.
Forget about it.
Actually, a couple of guys.
You know, okay, I'm going to make a statement here. This is an exclusive, and it's going to happen during your audio right now.
Okay.
Michelle Bachmann wins the Iowa straw poll.
That's wonderful.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you win a straw poll in a state that's got more cows than people. Great. Secondly, I got a picture of her eating a corn dog, and it is not pretty. I'll leave it right there.
Oh, man.
However...
you've scarred me for life.
I know. But here's what I'm thinking. 2 weeks ago, AMC ran Mobster Week.
Yeah.
And they ran Donnie Brasco, and they ran the Godfather series. You name it, they ran it.
Yeah.
And guess who the host was through all this? It was Rudy Giuliani.
Uh-huh.
And Rudy was looking rather sharp and glib. And I'm like, okay, that's nice.
You know,
all right.
I wanted to ask you something. Do you think it's possible for anybody to be a mayor or a political figure in New York and be effective and not have some, should we say, friendship with the mob?
Well,
I don't think anybody can run New York without help from the mobs.
Don't tell Bloomberg that. Which mob are we talking about? Dutch Schultz has been dead a while. In fact, I watched Dutch Schultz.
No, I mean, I really believe that. I mean, you know, they control so many of the unions and they have so much power, you know. I just don't, you know, I see this stuff where we're going to clean up the mob violence. We're going to get after the mafia, blah, blah, you know, and I don't really think they ever do. I mean, they might get a couple of guys, you know, and that's about it.
Real quick, I'll tell you a story, and it was very sobering. I mean, everybody likes to watch mob movies, but they don't realize, you know, if you had a relative that was whacked, it gets very, very serious very quickly.
Yeah, we talked about this last time.
Okay.
It's not funny. I mean, there's nothing cute about it. I mean, these people are vicious.
But one Christmas, when I was dating girlfriend one who was like severely Italian, I used to go over to Uncle Frankie Cement was her. Yeah, never mind. Anyway, me and Officer Bob, before he became a policeman, ran a fish store for his dad.
Yeah.
And the Italian thing is they do a lot of fish, scungile and all that. So it was our ritual that I would go with him in the wee hours of the morning to Fulton Fish Market.
Uh-huh.
And we'd pull in with his rackety old white pickup truck, and he'd say, "Excuse me, I'll be right back." And I went over and I saw him talking to a bunch of the boys. And he was paying them protection.
Oh, yeah.
And he came back, and he was going to be a cop, but the thing is, he was also, you know what I mean? He understood the way things. That's right. No, and I mean, he knew.
Yeah,
look,
you can't mess with those guys,
no.
man. You can't mess with them.
And, just to think, though, that what I was watching was the real deal. It isn't all as funny as when you're watching it in your room, in your house on a TV set.
Yeah, yeah.
But at any rate, so that was the way it was done. Now going back to where we were coming from with this whole thing.
Yeah.
And also with New York, okay, Giuliani, after he leaves doing the mob hosting thing, in which he did talk a lot about what he busted as a DA. So now just remember there's a little PR happening there. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting, but knowing me, I'm going to take it this far. I'll leave it like right there. And then who shows up on a nationally televised Yankee Red Sox game in the stadium with his brag rag on and his brag brim? New York Yankees, la la la. Who was it? Rudy. Now I'm starting to think. Do you know where I'm going with this? We're headed for 9/11.
Yeah.
Who was mayor at that time?
Oh,
Rudy.
Yeah. You're going to see his mug a lot.
Well, what I'm saying is that boy comes out in February or March, and I'm wondering now if we're not looking at the next president. Michelle Bachmann and all these other people. This happens time and again. When do people not get it? Whenever early horses come out, they never finish.
She's talking horse, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all she is.
What knockers? Anyway, so that's where that's all going, and this is all crazy. Now, getting back to Europe.
Yeah.
Before, and I'm so good at leading you down dead ends.
Yeah, I know. It's okay.
Yeah, but you like it,
Had
though.
a few laughs there.
Yeah, well, you like to kick the can too, so.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not a problem. I mean, it's just, trying to put out information. That's all this is.
But with Europe, what I'm starting to see now, and I guess it's because I'm wearing those lenses.
Yeah.
So I'm not assuming that everybody else is, nor that I'm right. But I'm getting a feeling now that you're starting to see us, as Robinson Jefferson would say, take our turn on the wheel, and our slope is headed downward. And
definitely.
And I'm looking at Europe, and somehow Europe, I mean, they got banking problems. We're going to see how that thing gets taken care of. That's going to be real interesting.
Well, it's going to get taken care of because the Germans are going to basically dominate the currency. I mean, it's all going to become a euro currency for real. There's going to be a united Europe. There's not going to be individual sovereignty. The countries of Southern Europe are going down. We talked about that last week.
And if they do go down, I think that's a fast track to being amalgamated. What's the best way to get a union formed? Well, get in trouble financially. And even Liam was saying this, I would say now it's come to years ago. He's going, the way they're going to get recalcitrants into the European Union is they're going to just kick them in the knees financially and say, okay, when you had enough, come on in.
Yeah.
And so now you're looking at, Greece. I love Greece. I mean, every summer they do this anyway. So,
yeah.
It's like a rite of Bacchanalia.
Well, I've got something right here about this.
Go ahead.
Last week I read an article from Ben named Osborne about the euro and the euro crisis and what's happened there. And got some comments here. Osborne explained their economic sovereignty. This is Southern Europe. Their economic sovereignty has been obliterated. They face a future as vassal states, or you could say slave states. That's my comment. Their role reduced to the one enjoyed by the European colonies of the 19th and early 20th centuries. They will provide cheap labor, raw materials, agricultural produce, and a ready market for the manufactured goods and services provided by the far more productive and efficient Northern Europeans. Read German. Germany is now telling these countries how to run their business. This is from an article called World's Greatest Danger, Germany Domineers Over Europe Again. It's Gerald Fleury. Germany is now telling these countries how to run their business. These countries are not democratic anymore. Germany is calling the shots. This is from Stratfor, which is a think tank that does a lot of work on Europe, European Union, etc. It is important to understand that the crisis is not fundamentally about Greece or even about the indebtedness of the entire currency bloc, wrote Marko Papic. The real crisis is the more fundamental question of how the European continent is to be ruled in the 21st century. How true that is, and it's become clear that it's going to be Germany. And again, he says, for all practical purposes, the next chapter of history is now open in Europe, wrote Peter Zahan and Marko Papic for Stratfor on July 26. Regardless of intentions, Germany has just experienced an important development in its ability to influence fellow EU member states, particularly those experiencing financial troubles. It can now easily usurp huge amounts of national sovereignty. Rather than constraining Germany's geopolitical potential, the European Union now enhances it. Germany is on the verge of once again becoming a great power. Germany's reemergence does force a radical rethinking of the European and Eurasian architectures. And let's see. This is from a blog, a guy who's the probably most influential independent political blog over in the United Kingdom, and the guy goes by the pseudonym of Archbishop Cranmer. But anyway, it makes a lot of good sense of some of the things he says. It was always obvious to anyone with an ounce of discernment that a single currency would fail in the absence of political union. So that currency is on the verge of failure, and in order to rescue it, Europe is about to have a full political union. Who will lead it? Everyone is looking at Germany in spite of that nation's history. I'm not saying this to condemn the Germans because the prophecies say that God is doing this work through them, but they have a history of starting wars from time again, and prophecy tells us they will do so one more time. When we hear talk of German destiny, we're talking about the self-perceived divine mission to preside over a unified Europe, achievable through a dominating German state. Such a notion of destiny or divine right was also in the mind of Kaiser Wilhelm II when he said, after the elimination of the British and the Jews, the result will be the United States of Europe. The hand of God is creating a new world, a United States of Europe under German leadership. Former German Chancellor Helmut Kohl for many years declared his dissatisfaction with the common market of independent states and believed it was German destiny not merely to lead a European Union, but to dominate it in a true Holy Roman Empire tradition. Another former Chancellor of Germany, Konrad Adenauer, declared, Germany has a divine mission to save Western Europe. And then Cranmer goes on to say, since the era of Charlemagne, the notion of a German destiny has been deeply ingrained in the national psyche. They believe they have a divine right, and God has appointed them to rule Europe and even the world. And they're ready to take on the job. And repeatedly throughout history, they've shown that if you don't believe in God the way they believe in God, they think they need to kill you. Isn't that what they've done time and time again? Then he concluded, we await the man of sufficient stature to hold the allegiance of all people. The one who will lift us out of the economic morass into which we are sinking. Send us a man, and be he God or the devil, we will receive him. And so the plan will be perfected. So, I mean, that kind of goes along the lines that you were talking about. That's really what's happening, and it's happening before our eyes, and I think a lot of Americans just don't pay much attention to Europe, and I guess don't really care, but it's going to affect us. It's going to have a very heavy effect on us, especially since it looks to me that as if the U.S. dollar is no longer going to be the standard in currency.
Oh, yeah. No, Larry, honestly, I mean, when I first got into this conspiracy stuff and started listening to things, I can't remember where I first heard it. I don't know who said it either, but it sounded very practical, and it stuck with me. And that's something I told Pilot Pete a long time ago, and he kind of like scoffed at it. I'm saying, I'm telling you, brother, do not believe we are impregnable. And what I heard was that there would be a goal down the road, which now is kind of, we're down the road now, we're there, and that the United States dollar would be knocked off as the reserve currency, and that there would be, quote, either a basket of currencies or perhaps the euro, which isn't doing all that well either. But anyway. And this may happen. Of course, there are some sites that are predicting, along with some other people, that it'll be OPEC that finally pushes this over the edge, because they're going to turn around and say, okay, we're not doing this anymore. And, of course, that would give us more reason to hate, Arabs, of course, right? Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it might be that. So, but no matter what, the dollar has had a target on it for over 10 years. That's unbeknownst to most Americans who listen to CNBC and MSNBC and all that other crap, Fox Business. But that's where we're headed.
And there's a swastika behind it.
I
mean, clearly.
I'm going to tell you something interesting. In the 80s, in the early to mid-80s, and especially living in New York, the New York metropolitan area, we were kind of like supposed to, not like Japanese, because they were buying real estate left and right. And we were supposed to not like, I guess, Jews, because they were in banking. But then come to find out that the heaviest duty bankers were the Germans. Mm-hmm. And they just, we're off hating everybody, and the Germans just doing what the Germans do.
Well, if I have time in this episode, I'm going to talk about the flight capital program that Bormann and the Nazis took at the end of World War II. The Nazis never died. Anybody who thinks they did is just ignorant of the facts. And there's been quite a concerted effort to keep us ignorant of those facts. But, some of that stuff has trickled out. In particular, there was a great book called Martin Bormann, Nazi in Exile, which was written by a man named Paul Manning. I think I've used Manning's work before in the series.
Yeah, you also quoted him kind of heavy. If you can remember one of those early Inside the Grassy Knoll issues, Manning, I remember, was there quite often quoted by you.
Yeah, he essentially, by exposing the Nazi flight capital program and the Nazi diaspora, if you want to call it that, he ruined his career. He had been a successful correspondent with CBS, especially during World War II. He was a radio correspondent. He was one of the people who worked for Edward R. Murrow. He was a well-known writer and journalist. And when he got on this thing about the Nazis in the Nazi flight capital, and started talking about how there was an underground Reich, and showed how all the really, when we talk about Nazis, we're not just talking about Germans. We're talking about the extreme right, the international corporations that all, that they're all in it together. A huge number of Nazis lived in and still do live in this country. And, they were part and parcel of the old Third Reich, and they're the people that are going to push forward the Fourth Reich.
All right.
And it's pretty scary stuff, but it's there. And this Fourth Reich is going to be the revival of the Holy Roman Empire.
Mm. I'm going to say this for later because I know you got places you want to go, and I don't know where this fits in.
Sure.
But that I would ask at the end is not going to be a problem. And if you can hear, the birds are plotting to overtake me here.
They usually don't get fired up when I'm talking.
No, they don't. But the thing is that I have the slats of the Venetian blinds horizontal, and they go in there and they kind of like hunker over me like buzzards. And I don't dare turn my back to them.
Yeah.
No, this is not going to go well for me, I can tell. No, did I ask those questions afterward? I don't think it'll be at a loss whatsoever. So I'm going to just keep them stored. And this also
you
comes.
Got parakeets, right?
Well, yes, but they think they're condors.
Okay.
And they have an attitude. Now, I should have never bought two of them.
There are enough of them, they might really make a run at you.
That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking Hitchcock. I should have never gotten two of them because they can spy.
Can you see the headlines the next day? Man attacked by
brutally assaulted by savage parakeets, and they're on the loose. So
look out, they're coming to a neighborhood near you.
So anyway, right now they're just in their little nirvana thing. You can hear them, they're like that's what birds do. All right, move on because I know we're hitting a couple of periods here.
Yeah.
As I said, both post, current, and about to come.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to talk about was during last week's episode or broadcast, whatever we want to call it, we talked about the massacre in Norway and the man Breivik,
right,
and how he was connected to the English Defense League, which is a far-right organization in England, which is parading itself basically as anti-Islamic, when in reality, you really start getting down to it, this is a fascist group, and they have all the earmarks of the old essay in the Nazi days of the brown shirts or the black shirts of of Mussolini's fascist era. The reason I say that is these guys go out in the street and stir it up with their enemies, they are definitely into going into and beating up or hassling the Muslims there in Great Britain. And the scary part about these guys is they haven't been around very long, but they are starting to link up with our esteemed right-wing Tea Party here in the United States. And I have a article from The Guardian in the UK about them and about that contact. The English Defense League, a far-right grouping aimed at combating the Islamification of British cities, has developed strong links with the American Tea Party movement. An observer investigation has established that the EDL has made contact with anti-jihad groups within the Tea Party organization and has invited a senior U.S. rabbi and Tea Party activist to London this month. This was back in October of last year. Rabbi Nachum Shiprin, a regular speaker at Tea Party conventions, will speak about Sharia law and also discuss funding issues. The League has also developed links with Pamela Geller, who was influential in the protest against plans to build an Islamic cultural center near Ground Zero. Geller, darling of the Tea Party's growing anti-Islamic wing, is advocating an alliance with the EDL, the executive director of the Stop Islamism of America organization. She recently met EDL leaders in New York and has defended the group's actions despite a recent violent march in Bradford. Geller, who denies being anti-Muslim, said in one of her blogs, "I share the EDL's goals. We need to encourage rational, reasonable groups that oppose the Islamization of the West, and also groups that go out and bust heads." I just kind of added that. Dennis Burghardt, vice president of the Kansas-based Institute for Research and Education on Human Rights, said, "Geller is acting as the bridge between the EDL and the Tea Party. She plays an important role in bringing Islamophobia into the Tea Party. Her stature has increased substantially inside the Tea Party ranks after the Ground Zero Mosque controversy. She's gained a lot of credibility with that stuff." Well, you know, that whole Ground Zero Mosque thing, to me, was a well-coordinated playing both sides against the middle. You got a man, I forget his name, but the prime mover behind putting that mosque in was affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, you get him doing that, and then on the other side, you get the Tea Party people going out to protest it, and you just kind of raise hell and create a lot of tension and discord within society, and kind of build up a hatred and for a particular scapegoat that is becoming an important scapegoat.
But let me ask you this: do you think that this is all contrived?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I think there's big money behind it.
Yes.
You know, we know that the Tea Party has its big capitalist influence. That a lot of money has come from the Koch brothers or Koch brothers, and we know that they're behind that. And I also believe that the Tea Party, it's in its early stages now, but I think the Tea Party will be eventually a fascist party that will pretty much dominate the Republican Party, and maybe the Republican Party will just kind of be absorbed into it.
Jeez,
wouldn't surprise me a bit.
But it's going to be so weird because there's so many soccer moms in that, you know. Deutschland.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, when you get down to the people that supported Hitler's regime once it got started, I mean, once it got past the stage of being a disreputable bunch of thugs, you know, in the public's viewpoint, once they began to gain some legitimacy, the overwhelming majority of Germans supported it. You know, and it wasn't uncommon, you know, to have, you know, people of all walks of life, you know, supporting the Nazi Party.
Because I listened to WCBS 880 AM out of New York.
Yeah.
I remember when they went through that whole thing, and that whole thing cycled through, and I don't know how it came out. I think. Do you know how that? Was there a final disposition to that?
You know, I really don't know how it all came out. It kind of seemed to die away. I couldn't get any information on it. I kind of looked it up, but couldn't get much on it.
And, you know, isn't it interesting? Because isn't that the point sometimes? And that's the old Orwellian news holes things. Yeah. It seemed to me, first of all, that gentleman, whoever he was, that individual, had been looking for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And I think identifying the property a year ago. It just seemed to me, and Peter King got in on this, who's a representative. I mean, I guess he's a Republican congressman from that area. You know, and they all sort of ripping it left and right. I'm like, look, I mean, if the guy wants to go down there and he has the cash, and the idea was that he was going to build a center that was going to be, you know, for beyond just, it was going to be more than a mosque, Larry, supposedly. Yeah. It was supposed to be.
Well, here's what I think it was. It was an attempt to stir up trouble, and it worked. And I think that both sides are, you know, being prodded forward. You've got the Muslim. I think the international. If you want to call it the Fourth Reich, Underground Reich, New World Order, whatever you want to call it, I think they're pushing the Muslim Brotherhood, whom they control and is part of their group, along with people like the English Defense League and the Tea Party here in America. They're pushing them forward to stir up the new crusade. And they're playing both sides against the middle. And I think you're going to see this is all leading up to a Third World War, and it's the early drum beats, you know, of a big parade that's leading to a new crusade.
Yeah, it seems far afield right now, because there are times when things quiet down and they get in a frenzy again, and of course, as we're looking at another 3 weeks, everything's going to be, you know. With regard to 9/11, for those who think the 19 Arabs did it, it's going to get all worked up again. Mm-hmm. I would only say about as far as the Muslim individual who wanted to do that, it seemed like he had made that known for about a year, and then all of a sudden, when the time was right, whatever that means, it might have been even last September 11th, everybody got all worked up. It's like, well, look, you got the cash, you plunk it down, you get the place. I mean, they're trying to redevelop it. The other thing I would have to say is this: when they criticize the guy for like, well, it's too near ground zero, and I got to say this honestly: if you're downtown, where Manhattan starts to now narrow into a bit of a peninsula, not, if you're downtown, you're near ground zero. It doesn't matter where. If you're on Wall Street, you're near ground zero. I mean, it's a small neighborhood down there, which is why it was always so.
I was surprised. I've been to New York a couple of times, and most of that was spent in Manhattan, and I was kind of surprised at how small Manhattan really is.
No, it's true. I mean, you can walk from the Hudson to the East River easily.
I had always, perceived it to be, this huge area, because I think of New York with such a huge population, and, just the whole New York thing, you would think it's an enormous area, and it's not.
No,
it's really not.
Because, I mean, it's funny, because when you talk about New York, people think mostly about Manhattan,
right.
which is the island. There's no two ways about it. But the 8 million people are off on Staten Island. Mm-hmm. They're on the western end of Long Island. And then you got the Bronx, which is on the mainland. So, I mean, you've got 5 separate entities that constitute New York City.
And I forget where Brooklyn is. It's somewhere there.
No, Brooklyn and Queens are on
Brooklyn and Queens.
Long Island.
Yeah.
They're on the western edge of Long Island. The Bronx is, like I said, in the mainland because you got, well, we don't have to go through that. But anyway, and Staten Island, God knows why anybody wants that. And actually, honestly, that should be
for all you folks in Staten Island, please.
I tell you what, you take a look at the boundary lines. New Jersey got screwed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The Statue of Liberty is in New Jersey. And I'm offended by the fact that her armpit always faced us.
Yeah.
Right.
It was.
It's not right.
I won't go into that.
Yeah, she shaved.
And I need to point out that the city in Italy that my son was talking about was not Venice.
I'm sorry.
It was Naples.
And he likened Naples to what? Go ahead.
And he said that Naples, when they pulled in, that there was so much crud in the water, plastic bags and toilets and things like that floating around the water.
Right.
He said it reminded him of New Jersey, the Jersey Shore. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll stop now.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It hurt. No, it hurt. It did. I mean, look, it was the story, and it's funny because I'm here in Pasco County, Florida.
Yeah.
And when they whack somebody in Tampa, the body winds up in one of the orange groves here.
Well, that's nice.
Well, I tell you what, somebody ran a story back around 1995 or 6, and all the unsolved murders, there were like 30 of them in Pasco County. That didn't mean that the individual was killed there.
Yeah.
But they would. I mean, we all know. You whack them in Tampa, like you see in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
You bring them up to an orange grove, bang, it's there. And that was the situation. Well, the same was in New Jersey. You kill them in New York and you dump them off in Bayonne. What's the problem? And if you remember The Godfather, when Clemenza...
That's where they dump all the garbage, too, from New York, isn't it, over in a certain area of Jersey?
Yeah, but I think...
I mean, it really...
No, but you know...
I'm not trying to be nasty. I mean, I really think that's what the deal is.
Honestly, it may have been there, too, but Staten Island was a big deal. And then you had the scows that went out to the Atlantic and nicely dumped it.
Yeah.
But there was one year in particular where this got really nasty. Somebody illegally dumped a lot of medical refuse, and it floated to the beaches in New Jersey.
Oh, not good.
And syringes. I mean, like,
whoa.
Yeah, they were. I mean, some people got stuck.
Bit of a biohazard.
Yes, without a doubt. And I mean, that's nasty business. But
yeah.
But I mean, if you remember in Godfather when Clemenza they want to kill Paulie.
Yeah.
They drive to New Jersey.
Yeah.
All those reeds that you saw them in, that's what happens. You drive to Jersey, bada boom, it's over with, and you're back with the cannolis. It's okay. So no, everybody likes to pop off about knowing mob members and stuff.
Right.
And that's fine, but when it hits the fan, those people claim they never said so. Look, we knew they were around, especially labor unions. And that's why I had to laugh because I mean, how can the mafia infiltrate labor unions when you can't find a labor union anymore?
Well, that's true too. The only ones that are still operational, they're few and far between. I know that the mob obviously ran the dock unions, stevedores in New York.
Yep.
And I guess they probably still do. Garbage men and so forth and so on.
Yes, On the Waterfront was all about that.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly, it was written by a Jesuit out of Fordham.
Didn't know that.
Good job done. I mean, even the priest there was, Carl Malden's character but the Jesuits also are very socially activist. And so that's, I can understand that. But you know what? They shot that in Jersey for New York. That was all shot in Hoboken. And we used to be able to go down to those sites, until recently, until the last 10 years or so. And you could see where all that happened. And remember, that was the first baseball game.
Yeah.
Hoboken. Get that
well,
right.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, and that's like Shoeless Joe Jackson went to play to try to get away from the Commissioner of Landis. Oh, did you? Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, now we're done with what? Who else did we disparage?
Well, I was going to talk a little more about the English Defense League and what they're all about.
Right.
And,
to get serious, though, let me ask you something. Okay, now, let's get back, because you sent me stuff along the lines. First of all, earlier in this year, it seemed, you sent me stuff where it seemed like you were getting this anti-Muslim backlash in Germany. Remember you sent some of the photos?
Yeah.
Okay. And that kind of goes on, and like we said, you think stories come up, stories die. And then, of late, we get into the situation in Norway. But now I'm thinking, what hay are they making out of this in Tottenham, in England, in back of what took place there last week?
Yeah, I think the English Defense League is probably going to increase by leaps and bounds because people really are being stirred up. It's the same thing we talked about last week in Greece. You've got a situation there where so many people out of work. There's so much economic stress, and people out of work are going to have a tendency to want to find somebody to blame for it, and the Muslims are handy. They're forcing immigration into these countries, and it's really pretty bad. Certain areas of Europe, the number of people that are coming in there, and you couple that with unemployment, and you've got a situation ripe for trouble, and it's all over Europe.
All right, but now I kind of snickered when I watched what took place in Tottenham. There were about 2-3 days of absolute chaos.
Yeah.
1,600 cops come in. I guess that does something. Tough talk from the prime minister. And then all of a sudden, the people arose and galvanized and were going to threaten. Basically, they said, the Bobbies can't do it, we will. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how did you guys, now here's where I'm going with this. How did you guys do that so quickly? Larry, look.
Because they have some very well-organized right-wing groups over there, and the EDL is one of them.
All right, now we've not heard that associated. We probably will never hear that connection made in mainstream news. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was interesting that after being supposedly on the run and their asses kicked, the homeowners, the shop owners all decided to turn around now. And they actually told the cops, get out of the way if we have to do this. And I'm like, that's a pretty quick turnaround to take what usually is chaos. The other thing I want to say also is that one of the reasons I think that violence got as far as it did is because I think Britain effectively degunned everybody. Mm-hmm. So what's better than a shop owner is to sit there and just watch it all happen? Because if you got yourself some weapons, it ain't going to happen for very long.
That's true.
But they don't have anything, and I think the rioters knew it. Now, I don't know that they're necessarily Muslims. It seems now to have gravitated to be a very black thing. I don't know.
Yeah, the English Defense League, although a lot of their members are formerly, neo-Nazis, and I'm sure they hate blacks, I'm sure they hate Jews, but they really try to play that area down. They try to appeal to a broad, across-the-board, that's their appeal, is they want to be accepted by a large segment of the population. In fact, I've got something here on that, another story. Acutely aware of the failure of traditional right-wing rhetoric to achieve a mass base, the EDL has instead tried to co-opt the language of liberals and progressives. On its website, it states the organization is a grassroots social movement who represent every walk of life, every race, every creed, and every color. They've even adopted the language of anti-fascist groups using slogans such as black and white unite, and calling opponents such as the UAF fascist for their opposition to free speech and democracy. The clear split between the traditional far-right groups and the EDL is in its approach to Israel. Far from openly embracing the anti-Semitism and Zionist conspiracies of neo-Nazi groups, Supporters frequently parade Israeli flags, while the leadership has made Israel's conflict with Islamic terrorism a central part of its political philosophy. The recently formed EDL Jewish Division has protested alongside the Zionist Federation in counter-demonstrations targeting Palestine solidarity activists. However, the Jewish Division remains small, and mainstream Jewish organizations have condemned the group and discouraged Jewish involvement. The Board of Deputies of British Jews described the organization as built on a foundation of Islamophobia and hatred, which we reject entirely. Having seen the EDL in action, journalist Jason Parkinson is convinced that the commitment to Israel and claims of multiculturalism are little more than a convenient front. He said, if it got to the point where they got any more power or control, then you would see the true element come through from the background, which is white, English, 100% Islamophobic, and certainly anti-Semitic. He added, it works to say we're multicultural. We're multicultural. We're not Nazis because we're behind the Jewish state. But why are they behind the Jewish state? Because they blow up Muslims. That's why. The EDL has gone to considerable lengths to distance itself from established far-right movements. Leader Stephen Yaxley Lennon, a.k.a. Tommy Robinson. I saw this guy, Tommy Robinson, on a BBC segment where he was being interviewed by one of the liberals there at the BBC, and the guy comes across as a pretty tough character. He sounds like the typical Cockney that you see in the British movies, but he's pretty sharp cookie, and he looks like the kind of guy who would beat somebody up.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard that name in a while. It's funny you brought that back, but yeah, I remember he was on the scene, and I just somehow it just seemed to disappear.
Yeah. He's referred to members of far-right groups that join EDL demonstrations as fossils of fascism and Neanderthal Hitler worshippers. The leadership has also aggressively denied links to the BNP. However, before Yaxley Lennon became involved in the EDL, he was, like a number of other figures in the organization and many of its supporters, a member of the BNP. And that's a British neo-Nazi party. But well-known neo-Nazis have also been filmed on demonstrations and have been seen talking to organizers. Tom described the EDL's break with traditional far-right politics as repackaged racism. He said, the repackaging has tapped into something. They have seen what the mainstream media is doing in terms of scapegoating Islam, and they have seen where they can gain popular support. The enemy has moved to Muslims rather than black people or Jews. Not that the people aren't anti-Semitic or racist, but they've repackaged themselves, and I think a lot of people have come to organized racism for the first time because of that. The rhetoric of the EDL, now being imitated by the BNP, reflects a wider change in far-right politics and organization. From Geert Wilders to the Tea Party, the new right represents itself as a defender of liberal principles, freedom, democracy, and even tolerance. But the thread that binds them to the Nazis and the KKK lies in the idea that there remains the need to protect us from them. In Western European liberal democracies, the historic targets of far-right movements, Jews and blacks, are no longer so easily demonized in the popular imagination. Instead, an image of barbarian Muslim hordes is conjured up in their place. Playing on widespread fears of uncontrolled immigration and mistrust of Muslims following 9/11, these far-right groups, whether violent like the EDL or political like Geert Wilders, have created a new enemy within to threaten our way of life. I thought that was a pretty good article. It's written by a guy named James Bargent and in a magazine called Toward Freedom.
What was that first word?
It's Toward Freedom.
Oh, Toward Freedom. Okay,
yeah,
I got you.
Toward Freedom, 2 words.
Yeah, well, I mean, you speak Texas, so
I
sometimes it's a little rough there.
Speak it real well if you ever need any translations.
No thanks, Sue.
Oh, terrible Texas trucker.
But now, here's what I'm thinking. It's okay to be bashing Islam, but do these people necessarily want to bash Jews?
Well, I think that's kind of hidden in the background. But right now, their real focus is on Islam because whether they know it or not, they talked about how that they were using it to make themselves more mainstream and to give themselves, to rid themselves of the image. I mean, neo-Nazis have such a bad image, in the public's mind that they really want to kind of get away from that, and they want to find, a more palatable enemy to pick on, and that's Islam and the Muslims, and I mean there really is a threat from Islam, from radical Islam, and the public's picked up on that, and I think it's just smart politics. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So since Israel, like I said, since they're blowing up Muslims from time to time, Israel's fighting them, it gives them a way to become in league with them. But I think the whole idea behind it is that the New World Order is using this to create a new crusade. I mean, the EDL even runs around with a Crusader cross as one of their main symbols. It's they have a flag that is the old a cross of St. George, the red cross, and they even put a what do you call it, Star of David. They even stick that in one corner, and they put the Stars and Stripes of the United States in another. So it's kind of like, we're with you all the way, let's kick those Muslims' butts, and it's spooky stuff.
I just wonder how this translates with the Tea Party, which is, and this is not a big surprise to us, and you know this.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll start with, the right wing somehow is always associated with Christianity. And I think I understand that. I don't know.
A perversion of
exactly.
I mean, the Klan, the thing that used to really bother me about the Klan, I grew up, in Texas, obviously, and knew about the Klan quite a bit. In fact, I knew a couple of people that were in it, and not friends of mine. But what got me about them is they would always run around parading themselves or masking themselves as Christians. And the first thing they do when they have one of their rallies, or the last thing they do, I should say, is to burn a cross. So you're desecrating a cross, and you're claiming to be Christians, and yet you're preaching hatred and violence toward your fellow man. I don't know. That just doesn't jive with my idea of what Christianity is.
No, and I mean the whole violence thing doesn't work. I mean, as far as how it fits into what Christ left us with, but of course that seems not to care. A lot of people don't even care about that, and we talked about this too.
Right.
I think we feel the same way. It's like, I mean, did you listen to what Jesus said? Not, I don't think so. And this wanting to grab back into the Old Testament times, where violence, of course, call it whatever you want. But I mean, and I make fun of this, but it's like, Jesus did not say to go smite anybody because they've been stiff-necked and wicked for 500 years, and they just go kill. I mean, that's not happening anymore. But that's what I think we're seeing.
Right.
Now I understand. Now here's the thing that's interesting, okay? And I just called this up. The Collins brothers jumped me because they said this was racist, and I'm like, okay, it may be racist, but why did this guy write this, and what did he know? And I refer to the camp of the saints. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir. You were talking about it last time too.
All right, and it still sticks with me because I'm saying, and I'm looking up to see who Ray Spell is. I mean, where did he go to school? And I mean, I don't know if he was set up for that or whatever.
It may have been a situation where he just happened to see what was happening and realized that it was going to be a problem down the line. Maybe he extrapolated, from what was happening in the 70s and could see that there would be a conflict. And, if I thought there was going to be massive immigration into my country, I could see maybe a social conflict in the future. And since I live in Texas, where, I mean, every day I am in contact with people that I know are illegal aliens, I mean, there are a ton of them here, bub. I don't know about Florida. I assume you have that problem there too. But, I mean, I really don't know too much about, the rest of the country, but it's from what people are telling me, what I see on the news, et cetera, I mean, illegal immigration is a big problem in this country.
And I think you might remember that issue hasn't, I mean, not the issue as it would be discussed by politicians,
right.
But that the event is still continuing. We haven't heard much about it for a year.
No, and you're not going to, because they want illegal immigration. I mean, it is It's part of the plan. It's the way that you get people fired up. It's the way you shift things to the right. And that's what they're doing in Europe with the Muslims, and that's what they're doing here with the Hispanics. And I'll guarantee you that whole Tea Party thing with immigration just isn't about Muslims, and it isn't about Islamification, although that's part of it. It's also about the, stopping them from coming across that border and, just getting people fired up and farther to the right, And like I was telling you in the last episode, it's like Rick Perry, and that's another guy you got to consider. He's got a lot of money behind him, and he may become the Republican nominee. And trust me, if he gets elected president of the United States, you aren't going to see anything done about illegal immigration, although he likes to talk about it a lot. But he's been the governor of the state of Texas for 11 years now, and the only thing he's done about illegal immigration is run his mouth. That's it. He went down, I said last time, he went down to the border during his last campaign in 2010, and he made a big deal about stopping illegal immigration. But he laid it all on the Obama administration, and Obama hasn't done anything about it. He's not going to do anything about it.
But nobody's done
But Bush didn't do anything about it before. And nobody's done anything about it forever.
It goes back to Reagan.
They want these people to come in here. There's more than one reason they want to.
Right. I mean, it went on through Reagan, Daddy Bush, Clinton, Shrub, and now, and everybody runs their mouth and does nothing about it. Arizona got a little weird, which I think probably is a good idea, but now I guess the Supreme Court is going to decide whether or not that's enforceable. But the point about this also, and I go back to Ray Spell, and that is how in 1973, and I will admit, when I was going to Fairleigh Dickinson, I noticed that there were, I guess, a perceivable number of Middle Eastern people coming to the college. And, what do I care? I don't know. We've had Israelis forever, and all of a sudden now Iranians are coming in, and I happen to befriend one who was on the soccer team because I was playing baseball. We had, we were just friends. But then it continued. But for Ray Spell to write that historically traditional Western Anglo-productive countries would be overrun by third worlders is interesting because it would seem to me.
And it's being allowed to happen on purpose. But,
did he know something? And here's the other thing, and I got to tell you. He was Catholic school trained. And the Wikipedia, which is as vanilla as it gets, at least says this: his unconventional utopias, which I think you would call dystopias, which bear the stamp of his traditional Catholicism, were regarded as controversial already in the 1950s. Mm-hmm. And then he talked about the Camp of the Saints. I'm not saying I like the book. I'm not saying I don't like the book. The thing is that, like Philip K. Dick and a lot of futuristic / sci-fi writers, he knew I don't think you can guess that this was deliberately done, again, in the Communist Manifesto, which I believe is what we're all going to live under. And that is more or less an equaling of the playing field.
Well, I think we're all going to live under a feudal system, which is, the ultimate result of fascism. And I think Hitler was talking about it. And it's going to be, call it what you like. I don't care what you call it. You can call it, bubblegum conspiracy, whatever. It's going to be a form of feudalism where you have a very small upper class that dominates a very large underclass, which is kept down by a police state. And, you're going to be lucky if you've got enough to eat and if you have a roof over your head.
Recently, I got an email from a lot of, protest in California and such, and a lot of Latinos are embracing communism, which is not a real big deal. That usually is the way it goes, especially in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
With Chavez down there as well. And I understand that they believe that this is the answer. I do. I understand that. That's like what Bella Dodd said in her book, School of Darkness. She bought it hook, line, and sinker and then realized it was bullshit, too.
Well, a lot of well-meaning people,
yes,
especially the intelligentsia in the 20s and 30s, really thought communism was the wave of the future and that it would bring a better world and, would redistribute goods and services and redistribution of the wealth, blah, blah, blah. All that whole communist line. What they didn't realize was it's just another form of collectivism, and it was a totalitarian system.
Exactly.
Especially as it was worked out in the Soviet Union. And Stalin was every bit as vicious a dictator as Hitler.
And they all
in fact, he killed more people than Hitler did. The difference being that he killed mostly Russians, whereas Hitler killed mostly other people, especially if you consider the Jews other people and the Germans did. And of course, Stalin, had huge numbers of purges and put huge numbers of people into concentration camps and work camps. I mean, that's all. Most people know that is historically correct.
But I mean, I'm always amazed at that too. That he would just go ahead and eliminate a really considerable portion of his people. I mean, I'm sure that he knew that they would grow back again. I mean, it just happens. But
well, he really didn't care. The whole idea was to create this terror. It's all about terrorism, and I mean, the Bolsheviks were big on it. Now, I read a passage from Hitler about how important terrorism was to him, and the communists knew well that by terrorizing people, by making them wonder, in the middle of the night if the knock on their door wasn't, from some guys in a car that were going to pick them up and take them for a ride to a concentration camp or even kill them. They had this terrific terror that pervaded the Soviet Union long before Nazi Germany became the same way.
Just a brief anecdote about this, because people, I think, kind of just don't really internalize what it's like in a regime like that. In high school, there was a young lady who was probably the most stunningly beautiful woman in the school. She also had a great brain, great personality, total package. It was like, I mean, I would tremble to even.
Number.
I mean, it's like, no, I can't handle that. No. Ceci Rodriguez, great kid, absolutely great woman. So, you leave high school, things happen. Saw Ceci a little bit before all of a sudden she's gone. She married some Politico, I think in Argentina. And he was not on the right side of the tracks.
Uh-oh.
And, stories come back that she lived under a reign of terror. Well, anyway, she resurfaced maybe 10 years later, gaunt, looking 40 years older than she was. And, her spirit absolutely crushed, still a good person. But, she said, you don't know what it's like when every night you wonder if there's going to be a knock on the door.
Exactly.
And, it's the old story. It's funny in a way, Larry. They talk about the Chinese water torture with the drops that hit you in the forehead. Mm-hmm. But the story is, it's not the drops, man. It's the time in between. And
it's a psychological element.
Yes, it is.
That's where the real terror is. It's in your mind. It's not so much what they do to you physically. It's what they do to your mind.
Absolutely right. So in other words, you only have to have somebody know that somebody knocked on somebody's door, and you think about it every single day.
Yeah, you live in constant fear.
And she came back, and she was gaunt. And that's, again, I didn't really have a worldview back then, but it was, nice to see you and all that other stuff. But that poor woman was just absolutely siphoned, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's what's like, and that's what people don't understand. It all starts out well with the security thing, which we're in that stage right now. I think you would admit, Larry.
Oh yeah, they're working on us. Yeah. I mean, just the idea of I have honestly, I've not even wanted to fly since 9/11 happened, and I haven't. I mean, I just don't need to. But it's the idea of having to go to an airport and be treated like you're, some kind of a security threat, when all you want to do is just get on a plane and, and go to Dallas or whatever. It's just amazing to me.
The thing is, too, I'm sorry, but, could they get, there's some good people in TSA, and we know that.
Yes.
There's former law enforcement who are really classy people. But I look at a lot of them at Tampa, and I'm like, where did you get these knuckle draggers out of?
Oh, yeah.
My God, and here's my point. If you want to go ahead and feel my jewels, then I want it to be a Hooters girl. I'm serious. Look?
Well, yeah. If you could have your druthers.
But I'm serious. And the women.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I want Chipperfield guys down there. Ma'am, can I feel? You better believe, honey, you can feel my breasts. And take your time.
The whole idea of it is it's so
dehumanizing
and humiliating to people. And they have just pumped this thing up, and really, I mean, what is that going to do? I mean,
it does nothing.
I've seen stories where some elderly woman, was brisk at the airport, and it's like, do you really think that this elderly lady has got a gun or a bomb, and is some kind of a threat to, it's just absurd.
All right, get ready for this one. Now they're accusing Islam women to have implants in their implants.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so what do we do now? I mean, it gets to a point, doesn't it? I mean, It's almost like some kind of crazy lampoon movie that we would say, oh, that's too stupid to be real.
Well,
oh, really?
It does two things. It ratchets up the fear, and it also encourages or discourages people from traveling. And that's one thing fascism was big on, is big on. They don't want you traveling around.
No. They want to discourage
you. They want to be able to
it.
control you. Right. They want you in the grid, and they want to know where you are at all times. And they want to know what you're doing at all times. And and Facebook, make sure that you get a Facebook page so that you can have social media, which allows people to spy upon you anytime they like. That thing it's so obvious to me. They are getting people to sign up for being spied upon by telling them, hey, this is really socially hip thing to do. You can talk to all your friends and keep up with them. Yeah, and they can talk to all your friends and keep up with them too. It's just amazing. I think we talked about this last time, but it still kind of blows my mind.
It does, and I said this. Here's the scary thing, and that is, I actually believe that the younger generation doesn't disrespect privacy. It just doesn't know that it's a value, because everybody's into and I guess we were too. But we were not given the access. I mean, if we talk more than 20 minutes on the phone, if you remember, in the clothes closet, your father grabbed you, put you out, and said, "That's it for tonight." Bang,
Yeah.
But now it's like endless.
It's 24/7 on the phone, texting, calling. It's a whole different culture than what we grew up in. And they don't understand. I mean, it's the way it is. Young people don't understand older people, and vice versa. My parents couldn't understand the kind of music I liked and clothing styles, hairstyles, etc. And I heard a lot about it. But it's the same thing now. It's fashionable, to be wired in, or 24/7,
in the
on the net.
Crowd.
And, it's just, and really when you get down to it, this is stretching it a bit, but fascism always had its primary appeal to younger people. I mean, when Hitler took over, he knew it would take him several years, to build up the kind of army and the kind of a society that he wanted to be bent on world conquest. And the Hitler Youth, they pulled the young people of Germany into it quickly, and it became the hip thing to do was to join the Hitler Youth and to be part of the Nazi Party.
I wonder what's
I think that's going to happen here. I think old codgers like me and you are going to, kind of be seen as dinosaurs.
Right. No, we'll be the old bohemians.
Those people are weird, man. Get them out of here.
Yeah, we're going to sit on park benches in Washington Square and play chess. And everybody would say, leave them alone. They're just dinosaurs. And that's okay. I mean, that's what I'm counting on. Please think I'm reckless by all means.
Just as long as they don't want to take me somewhere to a camp for my own good.
Yeah, but they couldn't even get any meat out of us. You know what I mean? So we're not. We're gone.
Yeah, I just don't want to take any showers. With a lot of other people. I'm not into that. But that's a bad joke. Sorry, but
no, it isn't.
It's kind of a cruel joke, but
I'll tell you what, not to throw the cloak of Scripture over it, but I'll tell you exactly what the scariest, I would have to say it's one of the scariest Scriptures, if not the scariest, is when Jesus tells Peter, someday someone will take you by the hand and take you where you do not want to go.
Mm-hmm. There's also a Scripture that says, some of those who will kill you will think they're doing it in the service of God.
God, yeah.
And I think this is something that the rapture cult folks, and I don't say that out of hatred or, I mean, I know some people that are very close to me that believe in the rapture, but I don't think that's going to happen. I've looked
No.
at it very carefully in recent years. I was raised that way to believe in the rapture of the church, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that Christians in general are going to suffer a tremendous persecution during the New World Order, Fourth Reich takeover.
No.
And I think people are faking themselves out into believing, they're going to be taken out of it all, and that's just for the people that are left behind. And I don't think so.
No, again, and I'll tell you, it was Randy and I, we were having a conversation. He goes, you can't, well, he said you can't find Antichrist in the New Testament, no, in Revelation, and he's true. It's true.
It's in the New Testament, but not in Revelation.
Not in Revelation.
But it doesn't need to be. I mean, you get the point.
No, and it's going to be somebody who pops on the stage. No two ways about it. But Randy also had said, we were talking, and he goes, the only thing I ever found, because, look, whatever, kudos for him for the work he did. And he was saying, he's going, look, what was he saying? Excuse me. He goes, there is no rapture, but he goes, there is a taking away, but the only one I can find is when those are taken up to meet Jesus when he returns. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm okay with that. Have you thought about that? That seems to be pretty logical.
That's a post-tribulation, and they've got people with their categories that they call it: pre-tribulation, mid-tribulation, and post. And I think I'll have to fit into the post-tribulation group. And there is I wouldn't say hatred, but there's a certain amount of animosity between those schools of thought, and people get into very heated arguments about it all. And I think people have been led. I feel a need to speak about this, but I haven't really studied it thoroughly. But I know that there was a movement back in the 19th century to build up the idea of the rapture, and it was
false doctrine from a woman, MacDonald,
yeah,
out of Scotland.
Right. There you go. Thank you.
And Gordon will point out that was Jesuit backed.
Right. I have read that before.
Okay.
I have read that before. In fact, the guy made a pretty good case for that.
In fact, I'm going to say this now, and I guess I'm not supposed to name names because the parties did what they did just in privacy and to help me. Mm-hmm. I received a King James Version Bible from someone, mm-hmm, and that was really neat.
Nice.
And because I'll stand on that. I'm not moving from that. But the problem is, and I've had this even in my own familial circle, it's like I have no currency. I have really very little legitimacy outside my wife and myself. Mm-hmm. And it's like, look, okay, I'm telling you this. You're looking at me, and I'm saying, there's the Bible right there. Go read it for yourself. But somehow it never happens. Mm-hmm. Whether it's happening in the 501c3 churches, okay. But I'm like, look, the book was written for us to understand. We don't need an intermediary. That was the whole problem in the Catholic Church, if you remember.
Right.
Here it is. You can read it for yourself.
Oh, yeah. The Catholic Church even made it against the law
for you to
publish the Bible.
That's right. And I said, no rapture. Sorry, there's no rapture there. And, look, get mad at me. Do whatever you want to do. Read it. Okay? And if you don't tell me about it. I don't care what your preacher's telling you. And I know, who am I? I'm just some, slovenly little subnoid who, lives in the cesspools of the streets. And, of course, I couldn't ever be correct over your preacher who's preaching to what he needs to keep that little church going. I'm sorry, but there is none. That doesn't mean we're going to be left out. Look, Larry, let's face it. Would we all like to be pre-tribbed? Absolutely. Are we stupid?
Sure.
No.
It's one of those, it's a happy thought thing.
Yes.
It's one of those, gee, I wish it was like this, so, hey, I'm going to believe it is like this. And, or it will be like this. And unfortunately, it's just something that I don't see happening.
But how do you get around that scripture, which again resonates with me as heavily as that one says, you'll be taken by the hand and taken, where you do not want to go. The other one is many will be beheaded in my name.
Yeah.
Well, how does that happen?
they talk about all the saints that are persecuted and beheaded, in the New Testament. I wish I had prepared for this one because you really need to read the scriptures.
We do.
I don't see any way around it. I see Christians, and I should say, and when I say that, I should qualify real Christians. By that I mean Bible-believing, born-again Christians who follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. I believe will be one of the primary groups to be persecuted in the New World Order once the Fourth Reich comes into being. I think in Europe, if you are a person like, and there are many born-again Christians in Europe, I think those people are going to get persecuted, and I think it'll happen here eventually too.
No, without a doubt, and that'll be one of the tragedies.
And I think the Roman Catholic Church will be leading the charge to do that because they've done it in the past. I mean, the Inquisition, should give you some indication of what they're all about. And they've never renounced the Inquisition, ever. They made some little statements about, gee, that was, a bad deal, and, maybe they shouldn't have done that. But they never really renounced the Inquisition.
If we could wrap it up, a couple of things.
Sure.
Real quickly. I still refer back. I don't know why I'm doing this, except that I feel that it just is, as far as I can tell, still a heroic tale. Are you familiar with the White Rose Group?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just think, I don't know. Am I wrong in that? I mean, do you feel that they were sold out and true?
Yeah. They, if I remember the story correctly, and strangely enough, my ex-wife knew a person who had grown up in Nazi Germany, had gone to university with those people, and knew about the incident. And that's when I first heard about it. And I kind of read up on it, and I saw a documentary on it.
Okay.
It was, if I remember, a brother and sister and a friend, and they, due to their belief in Christ and, their Christian faith, they began to believe that the Nazi state was, totally wrong, and it was evil,
mm-hmm.
and it needed to be brought down. And they made a little effort to try to do that by putting out these little tracts that they had written, explaining why, the people should stop following Hitler and the Nazi Party. They were found out very quickly, and they were tried and summarily executed by having their heads cut off.
Yeah, guillotine.
They were beheaded.
Yep. For
their faith. And they, are, to me, kind of like forerunners of what will happen eventually.
There was one, and I'm looking at this real quickly now, but I mean, when we talk about this, I've always been moved by the White Rose Group, and for folks, if you haven't, you go do your own searching. I mean, you will not be disappointed to understand what kind of dedication these folks had. But I think it also points out, and in a sense, if it is in the name of Jesus Christ, not a problem. I mean, look, they can kill you, but they can't kill the spirit, and you live on forever. That's easy for me to say when I'm not walking up the ramp to the guillotine. But that's what they did. And I don't think it's been over-romanticized at all, Larry. I think it's been really underreported. What do you think?
I think very much underreported.
Okay.
Because that sort of thing doesn't jive with, it's unpleasant, and it doesn't, it doesn't mean much to some people, I guess you'd say, especially people in the media who don't really want to overplay that or don't really want to dwell on it.
One of the individuals supposedly, I really do believe, came over across to the United States. Probably is now at an age where he or she, I think it was a she, but I'm not sure, probably has succumbed. But that's the end of it. But
they would be in their 80s or maybe their 90s by now.
Yeah, so it's points, and of course, who wants to bug anybody at that time? No problem. But if you get a chance to read some really decent work on it, and you can find it on the net. But the thing is this, I mean, they knew, they did what they did. They could only get so much going, but they could not overthrow Hitler. They tried to bring up a mass of people to go against the machine, and they couldn't do it. And I think it's at least intimated that they allowed themselves to be captured after a certain point. They allowed themselves to be snitched. And you can only imagine. Really, Larry, when you think about it, why wasn't there even a movie made of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know that the only that there were other Christians who did protest and try to point out that the regime was wrong and the things it was doing, and that it was an evil regime. But I believe it was Niemöller or one of the other Lutheran pastors. I can't remember which one, but I saw an interview with his wife, who survived the war, and she was talking about. She said, "Young people today don't understand, what we lived with the Nazi regime." And she said that my husband always wanted me to be very quiet and not to say anything. He was involved with an underground group that was trying to overthrow the Nazis, and eventually he was arrested and taken to a concentration camp and executed. But she was saying in those days, she said, young people ask, well, why didn't you protest? She said, if we had gone out in the street to protest, she said, within minutes, we would have been arrested or even killed on the spot. She said, it didn't happen in that regime. You could not do that. It all had to be secret. And she was saying, and most people just aren't going to put their lives on the line. Most people are not going to do that. They're not that committed. They just the fear of being tortured alone, was enough to discourage most people from saying anything. And she said, you go to the supermarket, or not supermarket, but, grocery store, whatever they had in those days. And she said that you had to be very careful about what you would say about politics. She said the best thing to do was not to speak about it at all. She said because if someone overheard you say something that they thought was against the regime, she said that evening the Gestapo would be at your house to question you about what you had said. He said a lot of people, got arrested and thrown in concentration camps, or just, complaining about, not having enough food, et cetera. Anything that you would say that was against the regime could get you thrown in prison.
Yeah, and that's coming to a neighborhood near us in time.
Yeah. I really fear that is going to happen very soon. In fact, I think with this whole, you said something that I hadn't thought about that I think you're right about. It's probably better that people don't really go out and protest against the official story of 9/11 anytime soon, because when they start this big celebration of the heroism of 9/11, it's probably going to look like you're unpatriotic and that you're disrespectful and get you in a lot of trouble.
No, I mean, let's face it. I mean, there's going to be enough swell of that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you know what? I tell you, let's face it. A lot of people have lost loved ones and family and friends. And that's really a loss. So you don't want to disrespect that kind of thing, and that's where I'm going with this. And I got another whole situation where I'm supposed to do an interview with a guy that does World War II stuff. And
I hope that comes off. I know that you're a little worried about that, but you know what? This is just my opinion, but I think you should do it because anybody that knows you would know that you're not pro-war and that you're not a rah-rah jingoistic fool, who just supports anything the government tells him to.
But
so it doesn't mean that you are pro-war just because you interview people who are you interview somebody who is involved with talking to World War II veterans.
Right.
And I don't think you should be intimidated by that, but that's certainly not my.
No. Look, your point's well taken. Because honestly, here's the thing. I mean, I hate that Rush Limbaugh said once, well, you can't be for the troops if you're against the war. I just wanted to grab him by
we
his
spoke about that last
freaking
time.
ears. And
he is the biggest hypocrite, he's just a total scumbag.
Have some more Oxycontin, you little pig. But here's the point.
This is a guy, like I said last time, this is a guy who said that they ought to arrest drug dealers and execute them, and at the same time, he's taking illegal drugs, obviously getting them from a dealer. And, come on, dude.
But the deal
and
with
he's also he's always whipping up, pro-war sentiment, and yet, he was raised, during the Vietnam era, and he didn't go.
No, he was
but he wants other people to go.
He was a freaking little
dodgeball.
I mean, he's a piece of crap.
Yeah, what do you call him? Pillsbury Doughboy?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Or Michelin Man. But the gentleman, what I'm afraid of is for him, because, I mean, like I said, I'm all for the vets. I mean, my father, your father, we all know it. But my father didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
This gentleman has gone and really highlighted what they did in a non-Tom Brokaw way, a very better way, I think.
Yeah.
But my problem is, and I have to write him, I think, because it's like, but I don't want blowback on him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, you were on that guy's show. Do you understand where that guy is from? Being me. And I'm like, I got to tell him I'm with it all the way, because I did stuff on the Doomises. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Is that the one where they were trying to
the three brothers?
Yeah, find out about their loved ones that were lost, and they wanted to the government to do something about it to try to at least give them some kind of closure on it. And they talked to McCain and Kerry, I think it was, and they walked out on him.
Yeah, that famous scene where that poor little
man
was sitting there in front of them, and McCain and Kerry got up and walked out on that guy. I mean, oh, God. I mean, don't even tell me about this stuff. So anyway, but my point is, the people who go to fight believe in what they're told. That's heroism. There's no two ways about it. I mean, it doesn't...
Well, I believe it. It's like my father was saying, at one point, he said, we did believe in the principles of American democracy as we were taught it. He said, but what it boiled down to at one point was a fight for survival and trying to help your buddies survive. And it got down to that level. He said, you don't think about mom and apple pie, He said, that's, you see that in the movies. He said they always have these guys in the movies, there's the old 40s movies, they're talking about mom and apple pie. And, he said, that's the biggest crock. He said, you're just trying to, survive. That's all. And he said, that's all it was. It boiled down to survival at one point.
Well, you remember the story I was told by that guy who was a grunt?
Yeah.
You do remember, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did he say? He goes, when they found out that the United States and the Allies would not bomb certain means of production, certain physical plants, because they had to leave them alone, that's when all the guys said, screw this thing. Our job here, guys, is to get home alive.
Yeah.
And that's the way war is. And that's the way I feel. But you see that, but that doesn't make the people who went over and answered the call idiots. They were lied to, but they're brave as hell. So anyway.
Well, your country has been attacked. Your country's been attacked. They are coming for you at some point. And they are going to rape the women. They are going to take over your neighborhood. They're, maybe probably kill you. It's that basic. The Japanese, my God, they went into Shanghai, I believe it was, Nanking, I'm sorry. They killed 300,000 people in the space of, I think, a week. And most of those people were bayoneted. They took bayonet practice on them. This is true.
Don't waste bullets. Yeah, why do it? Yeah.
They raped and murdered thousands of women and even girls as young as 10 years old. They would cut their throats after they finished gang raping them. This was the mentality that my father's generation was fighting against. And I don't blame them. In fact, I would have done the same. The thing that bothers me about it is they were betrayed by the people who really started that war, who got that whole thing started to bring about a new world order, which they're still working on today. And that's the problem right there.
I had always thought that China might bust a move after the Beijing Olympics, thinking that much like Hitler did in '36, showcase Berlin, nice Olympics, now we're going to go and kick some ass. Mm-hmm. I had thought that perhaps Beijing would have done that, but of course they did not do that. China didn't move on Taiwan. But that day is coming, and I think that'll be a trigger point without a doubt. But I also wonder, because I think there still is some long simmering resentment and hatred by the Chinese of the Japanese for that situation. And even though in the end they might all unify and call everything okay, fine, don't worry about it, as some futuristic writers have said, you'll have an Asian empire that's going to grow. I don't know. Does it really matter? Nah, maybe not. But like,
I think that Asian empire is definitely going to move militarily in the end times.
Well,
I definitely think the Asian Empire is involved with the, if not the Third World War, then the Battle of Armageddon. And I think that, my God, you're talking about how many people does China have now? Over 1 billion. And you've got North Korea, you've got Japan, you've got, these are all powerful countries militarily, and with huge populations. There is, I've seen speculation that if China really wanted to, and wanted to galvanize all their forces, they could probably field an army of 100 million men. That's 100 million men.
All horny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And not in a good mood.
No, not in a good mood. What is it?
That's a scary thought, man. That's just China alone. And we all know the Japanese, they definitely have a militaristic
tendencies.
past.
But the thing is, I don't know how Japan can sit out there and stay pro-American. I mean, like Harry.
I don't think they're pro-American. I don't think they ever were.
No, well, you can't blame them. Oh, my goodness. But Harry used to always say that too. Good old Harry. We were talking about who would go with who. How long could the Japanese stay pro-West? When basically, racially, they're involved with the Koreans and the Chinese, and all of them, by the way, have a little certain hatred and hierarchy going on there.
Yeah.
But Harry used
the Japanese are very racist. They really don't have any use for anyone who's not Japanese.
No.
And I'm not talking about a racist from this. I should say more nationalistic. But it really is a kind of a racism, and they badly mistreated the other Asian people, and it wasn't, it was just because they weren't Japanese, and they considered the Chinese to be basically on the level of animals, and they treated them that way. Extreme cruelty. My father told me one of the things that really rattled him when they liberated the Philippines was the manner in which the Japanese had mistreated people there. Said it was very common to see people with their hands cut off and their eyes gouged out, and this was a result of the Japanese. This person had done something to run afoul of the Japanese soldiers, and they just routinely cut people's hands off, gouge out their eyes, things like that. And murder was very common.
Well,
just go ahead and kill somebody you didn't like.
The way I figured it out living in the melting pot, which is the Northeast. Mm-hmm. Was that the Chinese thought the Japanese were Asian Nazis, and the Japanese considered Koreans like low bred.
Yeah.
And and later on, as we left Bergen County, there were certain towns that the Japanese went into, and there were certain towns the Koreans went into. But there seems to have been peace and everything's okay on this side, and that's fine. That's the way it should be. Not often, but it did work out that way.
A lot of it had to do, the Japanese were raised with the over generations with the Bushido code of, warrior mentality and the idea of establishing empire, and anyone who wasn't Japanese was scum, and that's the way they treated people because they had been raised to think that way. The Japanese here in America, wouldn't be like that because they weren't raised that way. Obviously their parents, for whatever reason, wanted to get the hell out of Japan, so that they could have a different life, for whatever reason.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a really serious question that we'll end the show on.
Okay.
But I'll tell you a little anecdote before then.
Okay.
All right. I have to do a baseball game. I'm working home plate, high school game, and we have Fort Lee, which has a number of Japanese players.
Uh-huh.
I just remember this guy hits a shot down third baseline, and it takes a bad hop and hits the kid right square in the head. Drops him like a ton of bricks.
Uh-oh.
And, okay, fine, the play runs out when we call time. And I tell you what, if you can understand this, in a sense, I don't want to use this word, but it is true. It's so precious. The kid, he's just a nice kid. He's trying to shake out the cobwebs. And now I'm in charge with this because if this kid has a head injury and anything happens, guess who's liable, right?
Yeah.
So I look at him, and I forget what his name was. I'm saying, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Yes." I said, and I got to watch what my questions were, and I'm like, "Okay, do you hurt at all?" "Yes." I said, "Okay, do you want pizza later?" He was, "Yes," and he was so foggy. And the reason I say this is because he couldn't understand English.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this poor kid, and he wants to stay in, and God bless him. I mean, that's what kids are about,
Yeah.
But I'm like, we can't do this. And I have to laugh because his head coach came over. I'm saying, Coach, look, I mean, and he understood. I mean, there was no problem. You know what I mean? But to see the bravery of the kid and the fact that, do you want to go to the bar tonight? Yes. All right. See you later. All right. And that was just, that was something culturally I had to get involved with. But, I mean, I always remember that because God love him. I mean, he wanted to play. But I'll tell you what, Larry, he was on Queer Street.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I couldn't leave him in there. All right, now here's the serious thing as we end the show. Herbie, as you know him from the Uticans for 9/11 Church.
Yeah, I don't really know him personally, but I've heard him on the show quite a bit.
Yeah, and he has you, and he was listening to Porter Stansbury, the Doughboy.
I'm not really familiar with Stansbury, but
I don't like him. I don't like him at all.
Don't care much for him, huh?
No.
Yeah, like a political commentator, or?
Well, he wants to make money. The world's coming to an end. Invest in me.
A gloom and doom, Chicken Little.
Well, that's my take because I don't like him. He might be really good, but I don't think so.
I'm sorry.
But
I
anyway,
don't even know what the guy said.
Nah, But Herb listens, and we've gone back and forth, and that's great. I mean, Herb, good for Herb. He keeps things open, and he sees things, he questions things, and he did say something along which I thought was interesting. I gave Herb my take. I'm not going to say what it was, and you can do whatever you want. But he was saying that what Herb told me was that Stansbury said that Germany will bolt the European Union because they're the only hot thing around. I can understand why that sounds good, but do you believe that will be allowed?
No, that doesn't fit the game plan at all. What Germany is going to do is going to dominate the continent of Europe. Germany is going to be the prime driving force in what will be. There's not going to be a European Union anymore unless you would want to call it something along the lines of the United States of America. In other words, there's going to be a political union. There's going to be an overall state. There will be no more national sovereignty. And in Germany's case, they won't need it because they'll be the basic driving force behind it. It'll be the Fourth Reich. It'll be a revival of the Holy Roman Empire. And I believe you're going to see at some point in the future, might be quite a ways down the line, but I think you're going to see the Roman Catholic Church will also morph into a more broader ecumenical church or organization, and it will become the official religion of the Holy Roman Empire of the future.
Yeah, I mean, and this brings me to something I wanted to say to you or ask of you earlier, because Germany has always had a kind of a strange relationship with the whole of Europe, at least through the 20th century, bleeding over to the 19th. You know, the whole idea of World War I, it's kind of like said but not said, and that is Germany needed seabound lanes and we're going to be an economic power, which England didn't want. All right, if we can buy that now, do you buy that at all, or not?
Well, the Second Reich was the second attempt to revive the Holy Roman Empire, and the Second Reich was Germany's attempt at basically returning to the formal glory of I should say Germany's attempt to become a dominant world power, and that was going to at one point, the French and the British were in their way, and they were going to knock them out of their way and take over. And that's really what it was all about. I mean, that's real simplistic, I realize, but they saw their mission as putting themselves in the position of world conquest.
Well, I know you halted for a second for former glory because there really wasn't in a sense.
Yeah,
but
I would say I would for glory from the standpoint of the Holy Roman Empire and what it was. And next time I'll talk about the history of the Holy Roman Empire, which I've been research on, and I found a good article that kind of gives a good synopsis of it. It's such a long period of history. It's like over 1,000 years. So, it's really difficult to put it together in a way that's palatable. But I found something that'll do that.
That's cool. I'm sorry I didn't put a call block on. Nobody calls me on Sunday. Somebody did. Don't worry about that. Yeah. I mean, because I'm a ham bone. What do I know?
Yeah.
But what's so interesting is this. I have wondered why Germany has been used to become the enfant terrible in Europe, because the first time around, and that's why you stopped short. And I was going to say, because
it all goes back to Charlemagne and the Holy Roman Empire. Charlemagne was a German king when you get down to it. In fact, this article, Unholy Union, says, in fact, the idea to unite Europe under the Pope's rule goes clear back to Charlemagne and the Holy Roman Empire. And this is from Edmund Paris. The papacy, ever since the days of Charlemagne, has not ceased to lean upon the Germans in order to impose its authority and extend its influence throughout Europe. That's Edmund Paris, who wrote Secret History of the Jesuits in the Vatican against Europe.
But let me run this scenario by you. I'm thinking that Germany of Bismarck and Kaisers was a Germany that got unified, looked like it could be a little bit of a problem, wasn't completely Catholic anymore.
Yeah. Well, now, the early part of the Second Reich, if you can call it even that part of it, the Second Reich.
Okay.
Bismarck was Protestant, and
that's right.
it was a Protestant thing. But when you come down to Kaiser Wilhelm II, Kaiser Wilhelm II was in league with the Vatican.
They were weren't they all Habsburgs, Catholics?
Yeah. He was in league with the Vatican. So
yes.
At that point, you've got a revival of the Holy Roman Empire. And you're right. Bismarck was not a friend of the Vatican.
No.
Although Bismarck did want to see Germany as dominant in Europe. So, you get a Germany going in alone at first, and then you've got Germany going in with their partner, the Vatican, when you get Kaiser Wilhelm II.
And yet
that's the way I see it.
Yeah, but yet they get beaten.
Mm-hmm. They got beat.
Yeah. And then now we have all quiet on the European front for 1918. 18 years.
1939.
Or you can go back to 36 when things started. So I'm wondering, if World War I was slapping them around to get them in line and cut this crap out. And then,
I talked about that earlier on. It's all been an attempt. It all goes back to Rome. It all goes back to Satan, really.
Exactly.
It all goes back to the idea of a world government which would put Satan at its head, and he would be worshipped as a god, which is what he wants. That is his greatest desire.
Exactly.
His greatest desire is to be worshipped as a god as he destroys humanity. That's really his ultimate goal.
It's funny when we talk about the mafia and people double cross, and I'm thinking to myself, that's so much. I mean, I'm not saying that that's part of the whole thing, but in Satan, he's the ultimate liar. Mm-hmm. I mean, he'll use you, pet you, get you to do whatever you want, and in the end, he'll cut your balls off.
Right.
That's it. Sorry.
Well, you're seeing, so many rock stars that you wonder. I'm not saying that all the rock stars are, Satanists or anything, but I think a lot of those people, have some kind of demonic influence on their lives that, that just rockets them to the top, and then all of a sudden you see them fall, really fast. And I often wonder, is it like a Faustian type thing where these people are no longer useful at that point? Right. So, the heck with you.
Adios. I always think about that song, and I think you'll remember this, but that's how I apply it. And that is, no matter what you do, no matter how well you've served, whatever. It's the old story about that song about the woman who took in the snake.
Mm-hmm. I know the song.
Remember that? Yeah. Took it in
You knew darn well I was a snake
before you took me in.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. It's like, too bad, sucker.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the work gets done. So I'm thinking World War I might have been getting Germany's ass in line. World War II, they would use the scourge. I think we could say that non-Catholic peoples.
Oh yeah.
Gypsies.
The whole idea was one of the first acts of both those. When you get down to it, Mussolini in the 1920s publicly stated it numerous times that he was trying to revive the Roman Empire with himself as emperor. And one of his first acts of diplomacy, one of his first acts of state, was to put out the Lateran was to agree to the Lateran Treaty with the Vatican. And the Lateran Treaty gave the Vatican quite a bit of money, and also, most importantly, restored the Vatican to the position of nation state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that's a very important event in world history, and Mussolini publicly stated he was trying to restore the Holy Roman Empire.
And that's an event that everybody overlooks. So they keep thinking
they just blow that off. You know, that's not important.
You know, it's funny too because I think, well, it seems to me that they encouraged Mussolini to get a lot of the groundwork done, but in the end, you ain't nothing, and Hitler was the guy.
Well, they brought Mussolini to power.
Yeah.
And they brought Hitler to power too. The Roman Catholic Church brought him to power. I mean, you know, they weren't the only group that did. The industrialists and the big capitalist financiers obviously did too. We've talked about that all through the series. But they were one of the prime movers behind bringing both of those fascist dictators to power. And the same with Franco. I mean, they definitely brought him to power. I mean, if it hadn't been for the Roman Catholic Church, Franco never would have taken over in Spain, because the Republican government in Spain ran afoul of the Roman Catholic Church early on, and that was just an inevitable clash. And they went in and got Hitler and Mussolini to come in and get rid of the Republican government. You know, the Spanish Civil War was nothing more than a dress rehearsal for World War II.
That's right.
I mean, if you read George Seldes, he talks about how that they couldn't. Many of the writers who were there, the journalists that were there in Spain, tried to publish stories telling of the influence of the Roman Catholic Church on Franco's fascist government and how that they were helping, bring this about. But they couldn't get the stories published because of the influence of the Roman Catholic Church in the United States, especially in the New York Times. You know, the editorial staff, they had 3 guys that were the top editorial staff. They were all Roman Catholic. And they wouldn't publish those stories.
And they wouldn't have gotten to those positions if they weren't.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, I mean, he was talking about, I forget what he called it, but he was talking about St. Peter's, Cathedral in New York. And, you know, I guess that's like where...
St. Patrick's.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, you're from Texas.
I know. I don't know those places. It's all up there in Yankee Land to me, you know. Who knows?
Okay.
Those people are all crazy up there. Anyway.
That's true.
At any rate, he was talking about how that was like a nexus of power there, you know, where, you know, decisions were made about what the American public was going to be told. And it still goes on today. And Americans really think that a lot of people really believe the mainstream media is giving them the real scoop about what's happening in the world. Well, it's filtered by a lot of very powerful forces. Mm-hmm. And the Roman Catholic Church and the military-industrial complex being 2 of those. And they don't realize that, you know, when media is controlled by corporations, they can do anything they want and tell you anything they want. You know, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're getting the truth just because you turn on your television and turn to CNN or Fox.
No, and that's the point. I was talking to Gino from Brooklyn, who has, I can see in his emails that he has been entertaining a chance to be able to show people what's going on. And that's not it's not a foolhardy thing to want to do, but it has been shown. And then that it doesn't work out well. The reason being, and I said to Gino, I go, look, you know, you're going to have to figure out, and he has done this, how you want to live with this and for those around you. Because unless you get, you know, a major broadcast outlet and or some paper or 2 that would put this stuff out, there's no chance for us. And the chances for that to happen are nil. Mm-hmm. Not anybody's fault. This happened before we were born. I'm not blaming my grandparents or parents or anything like that. It's just, it's what happened while we were asleep. So now to go ahead and say, okay, let me just beat my head against the sky, it's like, Gino, go ahead. Everything he wants to do is meritorious. It's the way I was. I think maybe, I don't even know you in those days, that you might have been. But if you can't get the message out, and that's how easy it is to continue a conspiracy.
Yeah. Well, the powers that be, New World Order, whatever you wish to call it, the really powerful oligarchy that runs this country and really runs the world learned a long time ago, and that the way to control the population was to control the media.
Exactly, yeah.
And they have done that successfully. They started with the newspapers in the late 1900s. Mm-hmm. There was a time in this country when you really could read a major newspaper that would give you some semblance of the truth.
That's true, yeah.
But that can't be done anymore, because all it takes is somebody is going to write a story that is critical of a particular politician, or they're going to write a story that is critical of a particular political policy, and that they might come up with some information that would be, scandalous. Well, that story's not going to be run.
No.
It's just not going to be there. Nobody's going to read it because it ain't going to get into the paper. It's going to get squashed. And if some writer was to try that, likely he will wind up, working for the Hoboken Gazette. I'm just a New Jersey thing.
Yeah, thanks. I work for them, but it's okay.
I'm just kidding. But, it's like he's not going to be there.
Well,
he's not going to be – you're not going to get to the top is what I'm going to say. You're not going to get to be in a position of a Brokaw or somebody.
You're going to get disappeared.
Yeah, you're just going to be some guy who used to work here, and we don't know what happened to him.
And I want to tell you this also. This is a really pretty salient story. Wink TV, when they were going after Flight 93 and all that.
Yeah.
And Brian Cabell, and I have the transcripts. I've referred to it often.
Yeah. I've heard you run that once. Yeah.
They talked to Cabell after the fact, and they said, because he's not with CNN anymore.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it was Lisa or it was Victor that talked to him, and they said, because Cabell said, I've never seen a crash like this. We have the crater back here behind him, he was saying, and a debris field 6 miles away. I've never seen that. So what happened was Victor
and he meant that honestly. The guy just was confused.
He didn't know.
He didn't get it.
Making sense.
He didn't get it, but once he did get it, he had to go back and cover his tracks.
Well,
somebody said you can't. You're going to have to. You're going to have to retract that statement, dude, or
Well, it was either Victor or Lisa or both who said to Cabell later on when they talked to him after he left CNN. They said to him, "But you had the story," and he said, "I thought I did until men in suits told me I didn't."
Whoa.
No, we can't.
So I got a little visit from some people from the government who said, you might want to change that story.
It was probably Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah. Or if you want to keep breathing right.
Right. And he put the little pen up and going, okay, you will not remember this.
Yeah.
No, but that's
we
what
have
happened.
pictures of your family here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And recently, Victor called me, and he had the interview with the woman, and this is all about Shanksville. And I've done this on other shows and stuff, so we don't have to go through it. But, this woman had read the book, whatever reason, an elderly woman in the area read the book and got in touch with Victor and said, I know where the plane went down, the real Flight 93, which didn't have people on. This is all, a hoax. But the thing is, it's that's the way things go. And he tried to call her back when I was trying to record, and they wouldn't answer. And Victor had said to me beforehand, he's going like, well, she's had enough. And she wants to talk, but you can see that her husband in the background's like, do we really want to do this? And
I do not in the least bit blame that person, because I would be scared too. And especially if I have to worry about a family member. It's one thing if you take me on, I have to make a decision as to whether I'm gonna get down and fight it, but man, if you were to threaten my kids, or you threaten my wife, or my mother, or somebody, close to me in my family, I'm probably going to back down pretty quick.
No, and we call
I don't want anybody to hurt them, That scares the heck out of me. That's how the mafia works, a lot of times. From what I understand is, if they can't get to you, they'll get to your family.
You don't have to get the person, you just have to get somebody else, And honestly, maybe this thing will come out. It may go on.
Yeah.
But, Victor and Victor called me, and I was out riding my bike, and he never calls me on the cell. And he called he called me on the cell, and I had to stop him like, holy shit, okay, all right. And I said, okay, can we reconvene and tape? And the phone was not answered. Victor's not called me back yet, which means probably nothing's going on there.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things, and again, this is insinuation, and this has to do what we're talking about state-run media, which we, of course, in America, we don't think we have a Pravda, and we certainly do, but it's okay. But I mean, I think the woman just did a second thought, and like you said, Larry, it's completely human, and at that stage in your life, hey man,
yeah,
it's not up to you to have this. But I think that she was also pissed because they're going to have this like unbelievably fake celebration at Shanksville.
Oh yeah,
and it's like everybody knows this didn't work out like that.
Well, it's just it kind of reminds me of the way the Nazis did the funeral of the Desert Fox, Rommel. Rommel at the end knew about the plot to kill Hitler. Yep. He really wasn't actively involved, but he had gotten his belly full of Hitler too, and began to realize what a scumbag he was. And he began to realize he was taking the country down, so it didn't bother him that they were going to try to assassinate Hitler. But he really didn't actively participate, but the fact that he knew about it got him killed. They came to his house and told him, "Hey, look, you can either come with us, or we're gonna arrest you and your family, and your family's going to go to a concentration camp, and you'll be tried in front of the whole nation, or you can come with us." And, they gave him the option to commit suicide. Yeah. Well, and then they go and they have the state funeral where they parade up and down about what a great guy Rommel was and that he died of his wounds, and he had been convalescing. His car had been hit by a British plane had strafed the car, and he'd gotten hurt. So, yeah, he was convalescing, so they just said, well, he died of his wounds. And, this big phony, funeral, when in reality he at that point was still a German patriot, but he was an opponent of the regime.
But wasn't he called back by Hitler? I mean, like you were too successful.
Yeah, he was called back at one point during the war in North Africa.
Yeah,
he was called back just before the final push by the British. But he was also sick at one point there, and so they brought him back. But he had. He had already made his bones. I mean, the guy was a tremendous general, and really not a bad guy. Just that, when you sup with the devil, you have to have a long-handled spoon.
No.
And that was his fault, and it was something he should not have done, and it cost him his life.
No, but I think he realized, and then I think everybody realized that this thing is out of control, and Germany's not going to work out well. And Hitler's not looking out for our best interests.
Right.
And of course,
a lot of them were shocked by the genocide. I mean, even people, from what I understand, even people who weren't particularly fans of the Jews, were maybe somewhat anti-Semitic, didn't want to see Germany do a wholesale genocide against the Jews. And they also saw the brutality that the SS had inflicted on the people in France and in Russia, et cetera. And that's not the way they operated. That wasn't the world they were in. They believed in being soldiers and fighting, on the field of honor, and
exactly right.
It was the old knighted, the old knightly virtues.
No, I mean, this wasn't about war. This was about something else.
Yeah, and when they saw, it was one thing to fight for your country, defend your country. It was one thing to think that you were going up in a crusade against communism, and quite another whenever you saw that as soon as you had gone into an area and had secured it, as far as the fighting goes, here comes the SS behind you, and they start rounding up all the Jews, throw them into a ditch, and shoot them. And people were seeing these kind of things going on, and some of them were fine with it. Many of the Nazi, many of the German soldiers and generals or officers were fine with that, but a lot of them weren't. So it caused a pang of conscience there. Stauffenberg had been badly injured in North Africa and had come back, and he was completely convinced that Hitler was going to destroy the nation. And He wanted to get him before he thought they might be able to make a deal with the Allies and with the Russians, and come to a truce, and he just couldn't pull it off.
Just real quick, in all your research, did you ever come across a commander by the name of Manteuffel?
The name's familiar.
Yeah, okay. No, that involves a story from my childhood and a confirmation that happened about 5 years ago, but that's for another time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as we look at Germany now, I don't see them as a bad guy. I just wonder, okay, we talked about World War I, we talked about World War II. Germany, I think, has been used. So now we have, if we can agree that we have power centers in the City of London and Vatican.
You know what it boils down to, Viz?
Go ahead.
It's not the ordinary American, the ordinary Brit, the ordinary German, or anybody else, ordinary Japanese, whatever. It's all about the oligarchies, the overriding powers, the people at the top who are evil. It's not the individuals within the countries,
right.
And most of the time, people are just propagandized to the point they don't know what's going on. And I know in this country, of course, in America, we don't have propaganda. We get the straight story from CNN. But, it's like, we've talked about this numerous times. Growing up, I remember it was just pounded into me. America is always right. We're the greatest country in the world. We're the freedom. We believe in freedom and democracy, and we're the bastion of freedom and blah blah. And when you finally start studying it on a higher level, a more critical level, you begin to realize that all that stuff was just pure propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
But you keep being told, well, the Russians they have state-run media. They don't know what's going on. They're kept in the dark, and so are we.
Everybody is. But now, as we look at this last turn of the worm, if you will, Germany certainly has economic power.
Mm-hmm.
We've said this. I don't believe they're going to break away. I think that they're very much wanted to be a core economically. And there's going to be something happens around
they're dominating Europe now. And they're dominating Europe now.
What, economically?
The Germans. It's already in effect.
Right.
I can show you that, but let me read a little something here, and it'll be the last thing I read probably. Following Standard & Poor's downgrade, this is from Economic Crisis, All Eyes on Germany, written by Ron Fraser. Following Standard & Poor's downgrade of American credit rating late Friday, the German newspaper Süddeutsche, I think that means South Germany, under the subhead, Germany as a Profiteer, observed August 6th, translation hires, emphasis added anyway. It so happens that comparatively solid borrowers such as Germany stand to benefit from the downgrading of the U.S. credit rating. During the political tug-of-war that resulted in the raising of the U.S. debt limit, German government bonds and international financial markets were in greater demand than ever. Because the uncertainty resulting from political bickering in the United States became too great for lenders, they turned to other borrowers, in this case Germany. After the downgrading of U.S. credit rating, this effect will be inevitably strengthened. And then under the headline of Germany's opportunity takes shape with the Eurozone crisis, Stratford, the think tank, wrote this. Germany definitely decided that it will allow its wealth to underwrite the European Union only in exchange for political control over how its wealth is used. With these changes, the Germans have staked their claim to European leadership. Germany reaps some benefit from the continuation of the crisis. So long as bond markets are pressuring EU states, those states are forced to come to Germany to humbly ask for assistance. The assistance comes with a price that the Germans are now able to name. The action Germany took on July 21st was no exception to this rule. In fact, it was historic in effect on Europe's collective economy. On that date, EU elites, led by powerful German interests in consortium with their lapdog, France, seized on the Euro crisis to bully the entire Eurozone into what they wanted all along, control of the coffers of Europe. This consummated what the Maastricht Treaty had enabled, in prospect back in 1992, the consolidation of the EU into a singular political and fiscal union, a literal European empire. That's what you got.
Yeah. Militarily, I don't see them doing anything. What do you think?
We've been through that. Yeah. They're going to take they're already on, I could read you some stuff on that. They're already on the verge of putting it together as a European army. And like I said last time, they already have nukes. When you consider that France and England have nukes, I don't know if England will be part of the future European Union / European Empire or Holy Roman Empire, but they already have nukes. And Germany has a huge arms building industry. France has a large arms building industry. Many of the other states, some of the other states also. Czechoslovakia has always had a big arms industry. So it wouldn't be any problem at all for them to field a very large army. They've got 500 million people within the European Union as it stands today. So it wouldn't be very tough at all for them to put together what the idea is, and I wish I had it here, but the idea is for them to have their own defense and not to have to depend on the United States and NATO.
No, that's what I think they're going with.
And that's what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. Let me got another story here. It talks about them uniting with the military. This is from a story called, there's another one by Ron Fraser called On the Edge of Tyranny. And he says, recently I spoke with a former British Army colonel who was an aide to Germany's first post-war Chancellor, Konrad Adenauer. He confirmed that Adenauer oversaw the careful placement of ex-Nazis back into positions of influence in education, judiciary, commerce, banking, business, and industry after the war. The result has been the education of an upper stratum within the German social order that is pursuing the old vision of German hegemony. Once of this, the German public is largely ignorant. Gus, he talks about a meeting of the EU defense ministers, and he starts talking about Guy Verhofstadt, who leads the liberal grouping in the European Parliament, argued, we have now a diplomatic service, which is very important, but we also need the other instrument, a common European defense, a common European army. And certainly at a time when every European country has to make savings, maybe it's the right time to build up this common European army. And Fraser goes on to say, so there ought to be no surprise that the new head of this joint European Air Command is, you guessed it, a German senior military officer. The same source states the first commander is a major general of the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe. And he says, the EATC will place in true perspective the politics of war of the EU states and creates further steps towards the development of an EU army. The joining together of the EU national military forces serves especially the state that has the most political influence in the EU, which is Germany. And it in this article talks about other things too, about the police powers of the EU and how they believe it will turn into basically a modern police state. And I think that's coming too.
I don't think it's any stretch whatsoever. I think that's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Are you satisfied?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good, but anyway.
No, I mean
the overriding thing that I try to keep in mind every time there are times when I sit around and get awfully depressed or even fearful about events coming down, and I just have to remember, who I have to lean on. That's the Lord Jesus Christ. And if it wasn't for that, like we always say, there's no way out but up, and that is the solution. Is to put your faith and trust in the Lord Jesus Christ, and to ask Him to come into your life and to live through you, and to try to follow His principles, and to pray and ask Him to help you. And that's it. Nothing else works.
No, I've always been for the underdog, and I always like, battling back against odds. But I'm also not stupid. I mean, I'm crazy, but I'm not stupid. And one of the things I've seen is that, look at this whole thing amassed. And I mean, that's what I write to people. And I don't mean to be like crushing their dreams, but it's like, look, take a look at what's going on. If you want to change things, you need a media outlet. And I've said that before. And, and that's realistic, because if we don't get something, at least one thing, you're not going to get much of your message out. And for the most part, no message gets out. I mean, for all the appearances by maybe Jones or Fetzer or whatever on Fox or CNN, I mean, it goes nowhere. It just fortifies in people's minds that these people are really crazy and they're not worth following, and hence their movements are worthless. But
they discovered a long time ago the way to defuse any kind of political movement that would try to unmask what the government is doing, any kind of movement that would try to unmask conspiracies, was to try to make anyone who believed that there were conspiracies taking place, they want the public to believe you're a bull goose loony. I mean, you've got you're wearing a tinfoil hat, you're a nut, and they love to use the UFO thing that way too, and they especially like to attack, people. And if you say anything about UFOs, well, you're already, a complete nut. But, there's just huge numbers of people who've seen them. There's all kinds of evidence that they exist, and yet, you're a complete nut if you believe in them. So people don't even report them a lot of times, simply because they don't want to be thought of as a nut.
And what I've said is that I don't want it to be that way, but I'm also being realistic about trying to change the opinion of something like 299 million people. They're probably not going to be that way, and we can all sit there and talk about what ass kicking we're going to do, and of course people make money because they're guys like Jones and such.
We've talked about it before. How I know in my own case that when I first looked at 9/11, I was just puzzled by it. I couldn't figure out what had gone on. But there were some physical anomalies that didn't make any sense to me. And when I started looking into it more closely, it was like, this doesn't make sense.
No.
But the problem is, a lot of people, they may listen to what you have to say about 9/11, and some of the evidence might convince them that there's something wrong. But there's that point where they don't want to make that leap.
That's right.
Because it's not comfortable. It will blow your whole way of looking at the world. It's the same thing with the conspiracy. The Kennedy assassination. A lot of people in this country know something's wrong there, but they don't want to make that full leap of, to get to the point where they believe that the government not only killed Kennedy but covered it up.
No, and they're like, I don't want any trouble, and blah blah blah. I understand that, but you got trouble anyway.
So and all of a sudden they start to form this reaction formation where A, you're crazy, B, you're unpatriotic, and C, you're disrespectful to the people that were killed. And it's and that reaction formation just seems to take place, and it's frustrating at first when you realize, I can't get this message out to very many people. And I mean, I had to finally realize that quite a while back. Not only that, but you've got the Patriot, in a PAYTRIOT movement, which constantly ratchets up the BS so much that I don't blame people for thinking those who question the government are kooks. When you have a steady stream of nonsensical articles and videos and audio interviews, et cetera, that really have crazy stuff going on because they're just trying to fearmonger. And it seems like, it's just a flood of things. And that's why I started coming to this show and listening to yourself, because I knew you weren't selling anything. I didn't agree with everything you said, but most of it seemed pretty reasonable to me. I was like, hey, this is just a guy who's trying to figure it out, and he's bringing people on and interviewing them, and they're giving opinions, and I'm learning things, but it was all pretty much straight up.
Well, you're wrong. I figured everything out. I had people like you on because it was okay. No, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, seriously, and you know, I get this influx of old listeners who have said, you know, I've been around for all this time. I'm like, well, I didn't know you were there, and then there were other ones. And look, here's the point. Yeah, you're right. I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not upset about anything in the sense of, look, we all live on a plantation, whether it's Canada, United States, and we all got to figure it out. There is a little bit.
And one thing you said makes sense too is that some of us have a better plantation with a better recess plan. You know, in other words, if you live in the United States or Canada or maybe some of the countries in Western Europe, you got a better deal, you know, than somebody that lives in Saharan Africa or somebody who lives in certain parts of Asia. You know?
Yeah, it's true.
But you know, or maybe certain parts of India, et cetera. But when it comes down to it, we're still just on that plantation.
No, we all are, but the Lord knew it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like do what you have to do, but don't be, you know, be in it, but don't be of it. And I think that's all been, you know, somewhat scratched out in the soil, and people are forgetting that. But the point is, it's clear. We're all going to a certain point, and it's not good. And that's just the way it is. I mean, but to go ahead and go on the air and say you're kicking the NWO's ass, I'm like, come on, man, that's disingenuous. You know, I'm sure if there is, and I'm sure there are people from the NWO who represent it in some way, who do listen to those broadcasts, they must be having a hoot laughing, you know, at somebody like Jones. I mean, that guy must really, I mean, it's probably like a standing joke, you know. Well, yeah. You know, and there's a point where, you know, he's been handled, and I don't think for the best. Yeah. But, I mean, for the most part,
I think he's an agent provocateur. I've been saying that for a long time.
Yeah.
I think I finally convinced Gordon of that, or maybe he convinced himself.
Oh, no, I don't think it's a problem whatsoever. But the thing is, it's like somebody's written me also. In fact, Gene, who's a radical out of Brooklyn, was like, you know, and I didn't really realize he thought he still could, you know, kick some ass. And he wrote me about a couple of things I won't mention right here, not because it's a big deal, but because it's got to do with somebody who has a philosophy about stuff, and that's fine. And I'm like, but, you know, Gene, look, what can I tell you? You know, if you want to go and fight this thing hammer and tong, you know, by all means go ahead, and you'll be able to do that. But at the end of the day, how much time have you spent, and they'll still crush your ass.
Yeah.
But, and he was trying to figure this out too. He's going like, you know, but, you know, maybe it's enough for myself and my family to understand what's going on and try to work within that kind of subterranean context. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, just don't.
That's really the best you can do.
Yeah.
But even better than that, and I do that, but I go a step farther in that, you know, I put my faith and trust in God, and you know, that's where it's at. I mean, these things, the Father is allowing these things to happen, and when He's ready, He'll stop it, and He'll set things right, and that's what people need to try to understand and to realize.
For the secular world that listens to me, I know that's a problem, and I understand that. And I mean, I don't beat them over the head.
I know they probably laugh at us about it, but hey, that's
well,
too bad.
You know what, Larry? I think
unfortunate.
Well, I think it's come to a point they're not laughing. It's just that
maybe the humor's wearing off.
Well, it was never good in the beginning. But I mean, I think there's a tug. You know, look, you know the way it was before. Okay, right? There's a tug on you, and if Satan thinks, I mean, I'm not going to say these people are demonic. I'm just saying, if Satan thinks he's losing somebody, what do you think he's going to do? You know, he's going to pull every stop out in the world to try to make you stay. And that doesn't make anybody a bad person. It's just that, honestly, you know, for whatever Dylan was and Dylan wasn't, when he made that song, you got to serve somebody, that really comes down to what it is. Whether you think you want to partake in any kind of religion, or whether you think you can get away from it, no, you can't. You got to serve somebody. It comes down by default otherwise. Whatever that means, that means.
Right.
But, you know, this is one of these times. You know, Paul Sandhu, I think thinks things will be accelerated. And I'm not saying that he's wrong. I just look at the way things have gone. I'm like, I'm not so sure things are going to happen all that quickly, though things can change in the twinkling of an eye.
Yeah, you know, I listened to Paul talking about, you know, the plagues and all the things in the book of Revelation. all the catastrophic events that were going to happen prior to the Antichrist, and he's right. I mean, it is in the Bible, but gosh, it's just really. I don't see how it could be, very much longer. I mean,
oh no,
no. I don't know how many years, and I'm definitely not trying to set a date for the return of Jesus Christ.
I just look at what they do, and even when you talk about this Facebook thing, that's a manipulation. That's something that's been thrown out there.
And what's amazing about it is, can you imagine somebody telling you, say, 20, 25 years ago, yeah, you can put all your information on a computer, and anybody in the world that wanted to look at your information about your personal life could go in there and find it.
Yeah.
And you're probably going, yeah, you can stick that where the moon don't shine.
Yeah.
That's a ridiculous idea.
They'll pepper spray you.
And now it's not only acceptable, it's cool.
I'm somebody who believes, things can take a long time happening. And then you'll have a break point, which I also said lately I thought happened, where all of a sudden things are accelerated. Bang, And so I don't ever decry the fact that, it could all happen tomorrow. But as I'm looking at things and the way people are being prepared, I have to guess, and, don't anybody hang on this, but I'm guessing that this is going to take 5 to 10 years more, although it's not going to be a fun thing for us in the process, as we all know. We're going to be taxed more, more Social Security being taken out, with less of a promise that you're going to get anything. I'm just saying what I think is happening is, and really, believe me, no disrespect, but in a way, as Christ was put on the cross, the U.S. has now done that. They're put up there, and they're going to be sliced and cut and bled, and by 1,000 cuts, and eventually just turned loose. I'm not saying there's any connection between the United States and Jesus Christ on the cross. But
no connection.
No, but in a lot of ways, Larry, what I'm saying is that,
just using it as a reference, as a metaphor.
Yeah, and how much more do you want to take from us?
Yeah.
And that's what I see, and a lot of people like getting crazy about Michelle Bachmann and the Democrats. And it's like, folks, don't you understand? Well, you're all up there pumping your fists in the air and getting all crazy about Democrats and Republicans. The IB has been stuck in us, and we're being bled drop by drop.
Well, our standard of living steadily drops, from month to month, year to year. What used to be a relatively, in terms of the world in general, a very prosperous society, is now there's a shrinking middle class.
The middle class, I think, is gone.
Yeah, and now there's a working class, lower class, whatever you want to call it, a ton of people who just simply can't find a job at all, and the others who can are finding jobs where they're very poorly paid, and there's no benefits, and there's just nowhere to go, no careers. This country is on the verge of economic collapse. I think the very first shot fired was back last week when they devalued the credit, when they lowered the credit rating. And you've got this thing going on in Europe where I think the euro is going to become the world standard, and the dollar is going to be devalued. And man, you talk about a mess. The economy, whew, man, we're on the verge of a depression. And I don't know much about economics, I admit it, but you don't have to be that sharp to see what's coming down.
No, you don't. And I tell you, the reports are mixed, but there's certain things that are not coming back. And unless that's addressed, which, of course, that won't happen, no, there's no returning to. This is it. But anyway, thanks for addressing the thing about Germany as far as an economic power that probably the European Union would not let get away. I think the bankers pretty much are in control.
Oh yeah.
All right, you agree?
You're just going to have You're going to have You're going to have a Germany on steroids. You're going to have a European Union, quote unquote, which will morph into something else, which will be a European empire. You're going to find that the states, there's going to be a two-tier system with Germany leading the top countries like France and I guess Britain, whoever, but especially Germany and France dominating, with France, of course, being the lapdog. But you're going to have the countries in Southern Europe, like Greece, Spain, Italy. They're all going to become second rate. You know, they're like we were talking about, basically vassal states. And there's not going to be, outside of just being language groups, there's not going to be individual countries with national sovereignty.
No.
You'll just be a European, you know. And you might be a European in Germany where you do okay, or you might be a European in Greece where you're broke. You know, lucky if you can find a job, you know, fortunate if you've got time to, you know, get something to eat, whatever.
Well, Liam might be hiring. I talked to him last week. He's great. I talked to him last week.
Yeah.
And what his take on stuff, and maybe we'll go on air in time. But
sure.
It's one of these moments that a lot of stuff is happening. There's a shifting that takes place. You know, you go through months and nothing really takes place, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get this little thing going on, and you realize. And that's why I'm saying, with all due respect to Paul, I think things will take longer than he expects.
Yeah.
But there's always that moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When all can be turned around, and that's that wild card out there. But you can't live in fear of it. I mean, you got to understand that's probably the case. And if you have to put your affairs in order, whatever that means, it's probably a good time to do so, because it has been, shall we say, a very interesting year.
You know, people often say that, you know, we're living in a time that's very much a parallel of 1932, you know, the way the United States was in 1932. Just trying to get out of the Depression and just before, you know, the Weimar Republic goes down. But I think we're really actually living in a time like 1928 where, you know, or really 1929 when it's just about to crumble. So I think there's a good chance that we've got maybe, I guess, anywhere from 10 to 15 years before the Third World War. And then I think the Third World War will solidify the control of the Holy Roman Empire. I'm just going to start calling the EU the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm all right with that. No problem here.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm guessing, and hopefully so, we'll be playing cards like in the cathedral. Yo, Larry, check this out. And you'll still be betting on New Texas, and I'll still be saying, Florida State's where it's at. Anyway. No, but I mean, you got to admit, I mean, without getting histrionic, it's a very interesting time.
Oh, man.
And things are moving, and, you know, like with Lady Visit myself, we look at that and we go, that's interesting.
Well, you know, the Chinese had a saying, you know, it was kind of a curse saying, may you live in interesting times.
Yeah, that's a curse.
It's not a good thing.
No, it's not. I love the Chinese. But I never got that in any kind of fortune cookie. I never.
Yeah, I never did get one of those either. But they probably got a lot of really, you know, great sayings that you know, you don't get in that. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, trying to get a real hamburger at McDonald's.
Yeah, and please pay the bill. All right, and Mr. Hillman, we've gone through another wonderful segment of We Are What We Hated, and I'll tell you what, if we keep doing this, I think all roads will probably converge. And we'll all be arrested.
Yeah.
And left out in the sun to die.
Hey, you know, I can always make a lot of excuses like, I didn't know.
Yeah, but I'll rat on you. I'll definitely rat on you. No, there's no two ways. Forget that. Don't run that.
Drop a dime on me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was all his fault.
And this show is not over.
He made me do it.
That's right. He made me do it. What was it?
He forced me to talk to him for 2 or 3 hours.
Right. Yeah. He pinned me down in my apartment.
Yeah.
And wouldn't let me go.
I've always been a Republican, and I really think the Tea Party's great.
I tell you what. I would have joined AA, but there were no holidays. Remember that?
It's like being an atheist, man. You know, it's just such a...
No holidays. Come on, man. What are you? It's a loser thing. But the best thing I have to tell you is that I was in downtown Detroit, the East Side Market, great place, and There were all Albanian restaurants there, and I used to go with a bunch of guys. We used to play pinball and eat like really weird food, and it was great. But we were standing outside one time, and a guy comes, and he's obviously loaded, and he's like banging against the store windows, and he's trying to work it right. And as he passes us, there's a store owner's out there who's like just livid, like he wants to kill this guy. As he passed us, it said on the back of his shirt, like, Department of Corrections, Oakland County. So he just got released. And he confronted the store owner, and he goes, what is this? Let me get this straight. He goes, you're an alcoholic. He goes, no, I choose to be a drunk. And all of us just sat there and, like, applauded him. Like, it was so European. It's like, excellent, yeah, okay, avante. No, I choose to be a drunk. And the Albanian owner looked at us like, forget it, man. Let's go back inside and eat Uzi, whatever the hell we do. Anyway. All right, listen, thanks for being with us. And I know this isn't the last time. In fact, I'm counting on it not being the last time.
Oh, no, there's more to come.
No, in fact, you might even wind up being like the Chancellor of Germany. I don't know. But, honestly, good enough. And back at your dad's loss and stuff, we thank you for coming on. I try to honor you in that sense, and believe me, there was a salient point for me too. I think you appreciated it, and
I did. That was really great, man. I did appreciate it. It kind of gave me a little bit of a lift that day.
And I just wanted to let you know that that hit me on a certain summer day also.
Yeah.
And but thanks for coming back and being resilient, and we'll see you, I guess, a week or so.
Yeah, I'll be busy next weekend.
No problem.
Do some business, but we'll hit it again.
That's why I wanted to go back to back. So that's great, and we'll just keep going, because I tell you what, it is the show that never ends. Take care, brother.
All right, we'll see you.
Adios.